Well, good morning. Tamian Dysart. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Think 3D. Where this came about was this session today. So Paul and I have known each other probably going on 15 plus years, and we talked a lot about people and culture and those type of things. And so I run my own business, Think 3D. Primarily, we work alongside organizations to build intentional culture. And when we launched our business, culture was this buzzword. We've been talking about culture. What is culture, so on and so forth. Well, at the core of it, culture, in our opinion, is an aggregate or a sum total of all of the individuals that make it up. So when you think about it, let's say we have a company of 100 people and this was our workspace. When everyone goes home from work at night, is there still a culture there? And the answer is no. It's a building. When does the culture show up? When the people show up, right? And so this idea of culture, for so long, we thought about who's responsible for crafting and creating and developing the culture. We put so much emphasis on the leadership and the CEO. And now, do they own more of the responsibility? Of course, they signed up for that. But do they own sole responsibility of that? Absolutely not. And so there's a statement that I stand by, and I'm going to prove it here these first couple hours. And that statement is this: you cannot and you will not be able to live your best life, whatever that might look like to you, independent of an ideal workplace culture. Ideal is not perfect. There is no such thing. Ideal is about progress. And to really have measurable progress, you need everyone participating in that thing. And so this idea of the impact of culture and who's responsible for these things, one of our core sayings at Think 3D is this: a culture will emerge whether intended or not. But if it's not one that you invest in, it is most certainly one that you will pay for. And when we start to look at especially why this topic and these topics of culture, and as Paula will talk about later, identity, these are so critical in our time right now. We can see the challenges we have in our country. I'll just give you a glaring statistic that's happening in the slide in America right now. So Oxford did a global happiness study. And back in 2012, America, amongst developed nations, ranked 11th happiest nation in the world. Not terrible, but we're America, right? We're supposed to be the best of the best and all these various things. Well, last year they updated that study and we slid to number 24. So think about that. Amongst developed nations around the world, America ranked 24th happiest nation in the world. So there's even undeveloped nations that are happier than we are. What's the root cause of that? The root cause, under 30-year-olds. Under 30-year-olds ranked 62nd happiest population per demographic globally. Think about that. 62nd out of all the developed nations. What's one of the core reasons of that? Social media. We are one of the highest consumers of social media. And so part of the challenge is when we think about culture and how do we evolve from this, we have this ideology in my other company, Elevate You, called the ripple effect. And so there's awareness, alignment, activation, amplification. And so this first couple hours, I really want to dive into these first couple. But the awareness of, when you think about what is the true impact of culture on us, what's the impact on our families, what's the impact in total in society, it is far greater than we're paying attention to, because most people are getting up, they're going to work, they're going through the grind, waiting for the weekend. Weekends are always too short. And we kind of just do this dance for what, 40 or 50 years, call it a day and hope for a decent retirement. And so in the idea of, I love this idea of freedom, right? We have a big year for America. 250 years, right? Come July 4th, what are we really celebrating? The idea of freedom, right? 250 years ago, there was a room full of men that literally signed their name on, basically their life on the line. Because if we didn't win that war, what was going to happen to those guys? They were going to hang. I mean, they knew that very clearly. So this idea, think about this, in America, we have the freedom to choose where you work. You have the freedom to choose who you marry. You have the freedom to choose who your friends are. And even the number one complaint amongst us Midwesterners is what? Weather. You can move wherever the hell you want to. And think about this. Despite all these freedoms that we have, how many people wake up every single day and absolve themselves of the very freedom to choose to lead and live their best life, right? So when we step back and we really have this awareness, you're like, man, this is... How many people are just going through the motions? Most people, right? You want a subconscious reflection of this? The subconscious reflection, ask the average person, how you doing? Good answers you get. Fine. I'm good. not bad, which means you're not good, right? How often do you ask somebody, how are you doing? And you hear someone say, I'm thriving. I'm amazing. Well, I often am. And I say that, and people are like, they're almost taken aback by that. It's possible, right? But it doesn't just happen, right? It doesn't just happen. And primarily because the second one here is alignment. Most people, when you talk about the idea of imposter syndrome, most people know that the vast majority of people to some degree deal with imposter syndrome. I do some executive coaching, and I can tell you how many CEOs and executives, they themselves are behind the closed doors in confidence, are really dealing with imposter syndrome. Most people recognize that feeling of imposter syndrome. What's the root cause of that? People have no idea who they really are, which is the important topic that Paula we were talking about in identity. If you don't know who you are, you'll never be in alignment with what you're capable of becoming. And if you're not in alignment with who you are, for businesses, how the hell do you think your employees are ever going to come in and align with your mission and your values all the way if you don't even know who you are, right? So here's the argument to this. Back to this idea of a culture will emerge whether intended or not, but if it's not one that you invest in, is most certainly one that you pay for. From a business standpoint, even getting businesses to understand, if you're not investing into the culture truly is currency, which I'll prove here in the next few hours. But the other side of it, an argument in this around the people development side of it. For the most part, people development within organizations stops kind of at the professional development. I'll send you to the workshop. I'll send you to the seminar. I'll send you to this conference, right? But the personal development side, where is that leaving us? Think about this. There's a study that came out 2 years ago, and it shared that 85% of people to an impactful degree lacks in self-esteem or self-confidence. Not surprising when you look at the world around us, you can see people that pretend that I'm good, but you can see somewhere in there to an impactful degree, they too lack in self-esteem and or self-confidence. What's the root cause of this? Ask the average person, like all of you in the room right now, how many of you are confident in the work that you do today? Almost everybody, right? How'd you get there? Were you that way day one? No, you put the work in. Anything you put the work in on, you build confidence in, right? So if tomorrow you woke up and you said, I want to master playing a harmonica, and you start to spend 20 minutes a day playing the harmonica, a year from now, what's going to happen to your confidence in the harmonica playing? It's going to go up. Anything you spend time on, you build confidence in. But here's the rub. Ask the average person in hours over the last year, how many hours has the average person spent working on themselves? Most people couldn't get to double digits, primarily because work is this biggest impact to our life. And when people get off work, how eager are you to work on you? Very little. We escape, right? Escapism is said to be a $5 trillion, with a T, $5 trillion a year industry. What's everyone escaping from? Primarily work. Scrolling, endless clicking, cracking open bottles of things, various, right? And we're escaping from our reality and just getting by, just making it through. And so when we step back, and part of going back to this awareness of the power of culture, the power of what work can do for our lives, in that bold statement, you cannot and you will not be able to live your best life, whatever it might look like, independent of an ideal workplace culture. And so when you think about the power of what businesses and life has, our vision statement at Think 3D is to redefine the definition and expectations of workplace and community culture. And we have to redefine it because, again, if work's the number one place we spend most of our time, energy, and effort, if businesses aren't caring about the person, caring about the individuals, how they go home, what kind of society do we get out of that, right? If you're going home less than as a parent, what happens with your kids? Who's raising your kids now? Technology, right? And again, if your kids had access to technology in that way, anyone have kids under the age of 15? For you? There's a book that came out a few years ago called Anxious Generation, and it shared if you letting a middle schooler have access to a smartphone, and nowadays you see elementary kids with access to smartphones, letting a middle schooler have access to a smartphone is more damaging than letting them smoke cigarettes. Think about that. You would never let them smoke cigarettes, but why do parents so eager to give them the technology? Because I've had a day. And I'm tired. Well, why are you so tired? Because work didn't care about you enough to send you home with enough. Now be clear, no one goes home from work at 100% because it takes energy to work. But part of the redefinition of this thing is we have to start to care about the people and curate their cultures. Now, part of this session today is really about empowerment, right? How do we empower people? Because again, if you wait for your boss to get it, if you wait for your organization to get it, it might not happen for a very long time. I'm going to give you things and tools today that you 100% can put into practice to start to elevate your culture, your microcultures within your workplace, within your sphere of friends, within your home, all the various things. And these are 100% things that we have freedom towards. But opening question, I'm going to put you in your pairs and have some group discussion around this really quick. I use this definition, best life, very, very freely because I love people aspiring or seeing what it looks like. So 1 year from today, right, April 17th, 2027, you just had the best year of your life. What is one thing that would have to be true on a personal level and one thing that would have to be true on a professional level for you to say with confidence, you just had the best year of your life? 3 quick minutes. Talk about it. Talk about what it would look like, what it would take to get there. So one thing that would have to be true personally, one thing that would have to be true professionally for you to say with confidence, I just had the best year of my life. 3 minutes. Go. All right. Spring back as a group. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. Quick show of hands. Scale of 1 to 5. 5 being an absolute hell yes. How many of you are at a level 5 confidence that you are about to have the best year of your life? Okay, listen, I do this all the time. Don't feel bad. Honestly, less than 10%. Why do you suppose more people don't believe that they're about to have the best year of their life? Uncertainty of the future. What it really says is what's happening right now in society is most people, I have to wait to see what happens, right? What says life is happening to us versus for us, right? And the core of that is the root of confidence. When you're confident in who I am and my skills and my ability, I know 7 magic words I invite all of you to say as much as you can, as often as you can. Everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. Doesn't mean everything is perfect. No such thing, right? Most of you may have heard of Steve Jobs had a commencement speech. I forget which college. I think it was Harvard. And he had said in there, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so the huge part of this, right, is this idea of most people, again, here's a very clear statement. We have a disease in our country of no longer dreaming in a country that was built on dreams, right? For most people, when they came to America, what were they coming to America for? The land of opportunity, right? And for most people, they gave up on those dreams, right? Again, Europeans who are coming across the U.S., the ones that chose to stay here versus continuing west, what they call them? Settlers. And this idea of settling, it really has settled into our personality. Most Midwesterners, right, we're so modest, we're ineffective. Most people, y'all heard the stats, less than 20% of people even set goals anymore. Think about how crazy it is. They don't even have a goal, like a singular goal, right? Les Brown was a motivational speaker, still is. And one of his statements he used to say all the time is if you don't have a goal or goals in life, you're basically a wandering generality. Who wants to wear that t-shirt? Hi, I'm just a wandering generality, right? But isn't that the reality of most people? Again, life is happening to you. How's your day? We'll see. We'll see how the day is of my coworkers. We'll see how the traffic is today. We'll see if it's raining or not. They're allowing life to happen to them versus them happening to life. And the crazy part about this, why I love starting these sessions off with imagining 1 year forward, just one thing personally, one thing professionally. The crazy part, we know this as humans. Everything that was ever created by humans first started where? Thought, an idea, a dream, or a vision. So if you don't even know what kind of life you want to have, what kind of life are you going to have? A default one. You're going to be an average of your past and your experience. I have another training that I do called Success Mindset, and I share in that the average person has about 60,000 thoughts a day. Let that sink in. 60,000 thoughts every single day. And almost all of the way that you think, up until the age of 18, had almost nothing to do with you. Right? You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose the schools you went to. And even when you chose your friends, who you choose your friends from? People in similar socioeconomic statuses, all the various things, right? And so for most people, then here's my personality at 18, and now I made choices as an adult, but you chose from a baseline of a belief system that you didn't choose, a pattern of thinking that you didn't choose, the emotions, like, and if you ever study into trauma, like the childhood, we all face trauma in different ways, but these things have such a significant impact on our lives, and most people are so unaware of it, right? And that's why they're forever out of alignment. And so the core of it today is I want you to really hone in on what can you activate, because again, nothing works unless you work it. Here's what I'll promise you in this content. Again, this is the type of stuff that we have Fortune 500 companies that are our clients, all the various things. This stuff works only when you work it. My analogy to it is this. Can you fake being engaged in CrossFit? If you go to CrossFit 3 to 5 days a week, I don't care what you think about it or not. If you go to CrossFit, your body has to respond. Similar, when you put these things into practice, literally, right? Think about the construction of your brain. The brain, this little 3-pound mass between your ears, has around 86 billion neurons, right? Those are the energy centers. The synapses connections between them, you have around 100 to 500 trillion synapses connections, firing and wiring. Your thoughts happen 24/7, 365. Here's the challenge for most people. Is they're addicted to who they've been. You've all probably heard the statistics. 90 to 95% of people who grow up in abusive homes or drug-ridden homes, what do? They repeat the cycle. If you were a child in an environment, obviously you hated it, so why the hell would you ever repeat it? Simple. It's what you know. You form these neural pathways of thinking. So in this stuff, when you start to formulate a new way of thinking, and you start to put it into practice and you have repetition, you start to literally create a new neural pathway in your brain. And as you think, so your emotions follow, so your actions follow, and you change your outcomes, right? So in this, one of our other core sayings here is, nothing of significance happens without intention. If I asked you, do you want to live a significant life? Hopefully you would say yes. Okay, well, how does that happen? You have to have a high degree of intention. But the core of that, for most people, you don't have to raise your hand on this one, but again, how many people wake up every single day and say, you know what, today is going to be an excellent day? Very, very, very few people. If you don't choose and set out to have an excellent day, what are the odds that you had an excellent day? Slim and none, right? You can stumble upon a good day. You know what, the weather was good, my coworker was friendly, I pulled up to the parking meter and it was already paid, right? Some things can just happen. You can stumble upon a good day. A great day, that's really difficult. Excellent, phenomenal, absolutely not. And so it's about setting your intention, because everything in this universe is made up of energy, the core, right? Everything is moving at all times. So if I don't set my intention at a higher level to happen to my day, to walk into my space and be that difference maker, it's going to happen to me. And when you start to look around you, how many of you want to be an average sum total of society right now? Hell no. But that's the reality, right? You all heard the statement before, you are the average sum total of the 5 closest people to you. That is not a simple metaphor. That is neuroscience. Literally, we all have auras, we all have energy centers. So if you're around negative people, you cannot help but pull your energy down, because we are vibrational beings, right? So to get into this, we're talking about this from an ecosystem standpoint. So often when we talk about these things, ecosystem, we use the analogy of a rainforest, right? So let's say you got a rainforest and there's a river that runs through this rainforest. If you poison that river, does it just affect the river? No, it affects everything in the ecosystem. Similar, if you work alongside somebody who comes in and to work in a pissy attitude, does it just affect that person? It affects the entire office, right? So we have to understand this from this holistic standpoint about the power of culture and how every single component has a part to play in it. To use the example, oftentimes we say, what do people consider to be the lowliest position at a restaurant? What do you think? Dishwasher is usually number one, right? To which we ask, would you ever eat at a restaurant with dirty dishes? I don't care how good the food is. I don't care how good the marketing is. I would never eat at a restaurant with their dishes. So everyone has to have and understand their equivalent value. So if I'm a dishwasher and I don't feel appreciated, and I don't feel valued, and it's a nice, bright, sunny 75-degree day, calling into work's no big deal, right? Because my job is not that important. Everybody within the ecosystem has to understand their role, their part to play, so on and so forth. We're coming upon the NFL draft. Do we have any football fans in the room? Right? Any New England Patriot fans? All right, good job. I like that. However, so my business partner is from Buffalo, New York, so he hates the Patriots with a fiery passion. But they make a really good example. In their dynasty days, at least, in the dynasty days of the Patriots, when they became the greatest dynasty of all time in the NFL, if you played for them, you weren't going to make the most money. You weren't going to get the most acclaim, but you were more likely to do what? Win. And maybe cheat just a little bit. A little Inflategate, right? But the reality was, Bill Belichick made this very famous statement, right? Do your job. Do your job. That was his theme. Do your job. Every single person he called to do your 111. So if you were one of 11 guys on the field, own your space, own your assignment. If every single person executed on their role and understand their importance, that's how you build a championship organization. And that went beyond the field. There was a gentleman who was interviewed. He wasn't the head custodian. He made it very clear in the interview. I am the director of facilities management. Every nook, crack, and cranny in this organization is my responsibility. When you come in here, you're walking into a championship organization, so that is my responsibility. He took pride in it because he wanted it to feel like a championship organization. There's a famous a story about John F. Kennedy when he said, we're going to have a man on the moon, and he was visiting NASA. He stopped the janitor and said, what are you doing? I'm helping to put a man on the moon, was his response. He's just a janitor. Nope, he's keeping it clean. So again, you could have clear thinking for the janitor or for the engineers and all the various things. Everyone has a role to play in this thing. Another quick example, if you've ever been up to Sioux Falls, where I'm from, we have a restaurant called Minerva's, and there was an executive chef that we used to, chef was one of the chefs for the Patriots. And Bonnie got to interview him, and in this interview, he kept saying my ring. He's like, whoa, 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 you keep saying my ring like you have a Super Bowl ring? It's like, yeah, all 200 and some people in the organization gets his Super Bowl ring. Now, if you've ever seen these gaudy monstrosities, these things are like 30 to 40,000 per. Seems absurd, right? Everybody gets a ring until you think about it. If I'm the chef and I don't get a ring, what are you saying about my value? My job's not all that important. So let's say my job's not that important. We're one game away from making the playoffs. I get in a fight with my spouse. I come to work the next day. I'm not paying attention. I put the wrong ingredient on the wrong meal plan. The head running back gets sick, and now we miss the playoffs, and this $4 billion thing comes off the track because you communicated to me, my job's not that important, right? Every person has to have equivalent value to that. But to get a starting point to this, we have to start to give some definition to what is the culture that we desire and what's the culture that we don't desire. So what I want you to do, I want you to throw at me, when you think about a toxic culture, what are words, phrases, behaviors that you would find in a toxic culture that you would want gone from around you for the rest of your career? What are some behaviors in a toxic culture? Passive aggressive, negativity, passive aggressive, judgmental, arrogance. That's a horrible one. What else? Tense. Yes. What else? Think about behaviors that you've been around that you would want gone for the rest of your career. Complainers. What else? Harassment. You said apathy? Apathy. What else? You can get rid of it forever. What would you gone? Behaviors of people that you've been around in your career. Ego. What else? Poor communication. You're right. What else? Micromanagement. Give me two more. Management, secrecy, and drama. Right? Dig it. I don't want drama around me. Okay, good list. Now we're going to flip the coin. Blank piece of paper, slide it across the desk. You get to define the ideal culture, the kind of culture that you would want to be in the rest of your career, the one that you would want for your children, The one that you wish your spouse was in so they came home different and stopped complaining about work. What are character traits of a healthy culture? Honesty. Supportive. Good one. What else? Respect. What else? Caring. Yeah. What else? Yes. We're going to call it effective communication because some people communicate a lot. They're just not very effective at it. What else? What do you want? What was that one? Edifying. Uplifting, yes. Yes, helpful. What was that one? Challenging, yes. Need some challenge in there. Challenging in a good way. Teamwork, there's the dream work. What else? Let's get 5 more. Positive. I want some positivity. Absolutely positive. Yes. Info sharing. I want some growth. Growth. Yeah, absolutely. Mentorship. And I'm going to add one more. Hopefully you guys want this. 3-letter word. Starts with F. You want fun at work? I want fun at work. I want to laugh, right? Easy exercise, but I'm going to give you 3 reasons. This is an important exercise. If you lead teams today, you should take this back and do it with your team. I do it in my home. 3 reasons this is an important exercise. If you take this with you in every culture, every place that you go, there's 3 reasons this is a very powerful thing. The first one is the skill of articulation. The skill of articulation. I use that word very intentionally. It's a skill. Because if it's a skill, it can be developed. It can be learned. Now, it proved true here, right? And again, there's only about 6 of you guys, right? But the reality is, did this stuff come rolling off your tongue? No. Most people, do not underestimate this. Most people in their lifetime have never had a genuine say-so on crafting and creating the environment. You were just in an environment, right? Growing up, even if you had good parents, did your parents ever sit you down and say, hey, how are we doing? How could we improve? Not even close. Very clear hierarchy because I said so. Parent, child. Let's say you go to a good school. Even in a good school, how much say-so did you have in the environment there? Nope. Clear hierarchy. Teacher, student. And then you turn 18. And no one's going to tell me what to do until you go to work. Boss, subordinate. Do not underestimate this. Most people have no idea of how to articulate what do they want. How many of you either currently lead people or have led people before? Right? Good half the room or so. So you've probably been here. If you genuinely care about people, you probably have felt this frustration. Is there any scenario where you create the ideal environment where everyone's happy all the time? Not even close, right? So it can get frustrating when you as a leader are trying to create an environment and the people that you work for you are just evaluating. Try it again. Try it again. Not good. Try it again. We have to teach them the skill of what do they want and what they don't want, right? To use the example of this, my business partner, when he shares this story, his wife, she'll come home oftentimes on a Friday night. She owns a salon and working hard all week. Busted the door, said, babe, I'm starving. And him claiming to be the caring and kind, considerate husband he is, he said, sure, hun, where would you like to eat? To which she replies, I don't know or I don't care. Pretty typical response we get. Now, here's what we know for a 100% fact. She cares. And when she says, I don't know or I don't care, what she means is she wants him to name every restaurant in a 5-mile radius until he hits one she's in the mood for. A little game he calls Restaurant Tinder. He's just offering up ideas and she's swiping away, right? And it can get frustrating because if you say, I don't know or I don't care, guess which ones he starts with? The ones he's in the mood for, right? And so it can get frustrating when you're the one offering up things in the environment and your team is just evaluating, no, try that again. And you're like, I'm trying to create this for us, right? You, as a supervisor, you already make more money, right? All the various things, but you're like, no, I care about you. I'm trying to create this thing. And so teaching people the skill, what do you want and what don't. Let's say you guys were all my team. If I did this together, these aren't my words. I asked you guys, what behaviors do we not want? And what behaviors do we want? Because again, When this building is empty, there's no culture here. The culture shows up when the people show up, and it shows up through their behaviors. So the behaviors really is the core of what the culture feels like. You can have mission statements, and you can have vision statements, and you can have views and values and all the various things. That's a really great wallpaper for the most part. A culture at its core is the feeling of the behaviors that come from the people. But most people don't have an active participation in their role in the process. And that is a huge part. So we have to teach people the skill of articulation. The second reason this is an important exercise, this makes this a very binary decision. So many people live in the world of gray and all the various things, and I didn't mean to. It's a very black or white issue, right? Here's the reality. There's no organization out there that has all of this stuff and none of this stuff, because they would go out of business. Fair? And there's no organization that has all of this stuff and none of this stuff, because there's human beings inside that organization, right? So the reality is every organization has two fires that are burning. And the analogy is when you walk in every single day, you are given a log. In whichever fire you choose to place your log on is going to burn the brightest, and it will burn the longest. Fact. So if you come in and you participate in complaining or gossip, which culture are you contributing to? Toxic. Again, these aren't my words. So when you have your team say, oh, here's the thing. Love the person, address the behavior. Hey, love, you think you're great, but your complaining is tearing down the culture. Hey, you're awesome, but how you communicated last week, that was pretty poor communication. Love you, but it's the behavior. We have to be able to get to the behavior, right? Making it a very clear black or white issue, right? And the third reason this is an important exercise, and this is one of the greatest skills I teach anybody, right? It is the ability to lead without power. The ability to lead without power. Now, key of this, the baseline of this, key of leading without power is, first of all, understand you have no power. Todd from accounting can't make you do anything, right? It's a suggestion. Now, if I choose not to, you could fire me, but I'm a full-grown adult, right? You can't make me do anything. And so when you get people to actively participate in the process and recognize it's about leadership. Leadership is not title. Leadership is not a position. Leadership at the core is one word: influence. Leadership is influence. And if leadership is influence, that means every single person in the organization has the ability to be a leader. So many people, again, mistake leadership for the position, supervisor, manager, and we intertwine those things. No, a leader is influence. Now, there's good and bad leaders, right? Was Hitler a leader? He convinced an entire country to believe they could take over the world, right? In that, he had influence, right? One of my mantras I live by: highest energy wins. When he walked in the room, and he believed what he believed, and he convinced a whole country to believe they could take over the world, right? On the flip side of it, how much position power did Gandhi have? How much influence did Gandhi have? He too, on the positive side, changed an entire country because of his conviction and his belief, right? And so when you learn the power of leading, the skill of leading without power, right? I could drop you anywhere in the world, into any organization, and you will be able to upward mobilize, because it's through influence. It's how you come in. It's your energy. It's your attitude. It's your effort. When people see that, you can lead no matter where you're at in the world, right? And so the core of that, understanding that place, right? We always ask people this question of, if you were lost in a desert, who would you want to follow? The president, CEO, the dictator, the king, or the person with the map? I want to follow the person with the map that knows the way. And so when you say this is why this is so important, especially when you're talking about the culture, especially in the 21st century, this isn't about making more dollars and more profits directly, right? This is about helping people to say, how do you help people lead and live their best life? But you can't lead people to lead and live their best life if you don't know it for yourself, because what are you teaching them? And that's the part where when you start to say, I have the map of how we can lead and live our best life, the benefit, the companies that we work with who get it, we have companies now in the 90-some percentile from an employee engagement standpoint. When they start to recognize how you get people to the space of understanding this goes beyond just work, and I give people a genuine nature of how you can lead and live your best life, and people go home better, how do they come back to work? Better. The companies that are getting the money's there. The money will come when people are really feel cared about. But this is new age stuff because for predominantly it was profits over people. We honestly didn't care about people enough to create the environment, the culture, so on and so forth, right? So the importance of this is identify it in these three ways. Now, here's the thing. Culture is currency. One of the things with a lot of organizations that we engage with, does anyone know what the unemployment rate here in Des Moines is? Pretty low, I'm sure. Like most, we're at 2% in Sioux Falls. Like, I mean, the reality is, we hear this all the time from HR folks. It's so hard to find good people. So hard to find good people. Well, the reality is, good people aren't sitting at home with no job waiting for that phone to ring. They already have jobs, right? And so it's about the attraction. And here's the thing about this. We don't hear enough is it's so hard to keep good people because recruitment happens first by way of retention, right? I always use the analogy of this, right? I don't care how good looking you think you are. If you're in a relationship right now, I don't care how good looking you think you are. There's always somebody out there that's better looking than you, right? But the thing that will keep your partner from looking elsewhere is when they feel valued. When they feel valued and seen, they're not even looking. Similar to your employees, when your employees feel valued and seen, they're not looking in the want ads and all the various things, right? And here's the side of culture as currency. Like a couple of years ago, all across the country, we were playing this great pay war, right? Where to get people, you just had to pay them more money and more money and more money. Who won? Even the people that made more money, did they really win? How much are you paying for groceries today? Everything had to have a trickle-down effect, right? So again, now, the reality is they say this psychologically, even when you win the lottery winners of $1 million or more, after about 9 months, it becomes your new normal. So money is not the forever thing. If right now, whatever you do for a living, right? I work for a competing organization up the street, and I'm like, hey, $8,000 more than you're getting paid right now. You'd probably be interested. What if I said, you're going to be 7% more miserable? Still want it? No, because what's the money for? Why do you want the money? For what? To live a better life. And so if I'm going home less than, right, what's the money for? The core of that, this golden saying culture is currency, literally, right? If I showed you a culture, if I work for the opposite side, I work for an organization up the street, and I literally, like, you can vibrate, you feel this stuff here. How many of you would take less money to a degree, let's say $3,000 less than you're getting paid, would take less money to have this culture? Almost everybody, because again, if I went home from this culture versus some of those days, man, if I came home with more vibrant parent, a vibrant spouse, and all the various things, like that's living life, right? Culture is currency. So part of this thing, and we're talking about this 21st century, every organization will say, we believe in culture. I have yet to meet a company that says, screw culture. Everyone will say that. What's your artifacts? What's the artifacts that you're investing in the culture? Because 100 years from now, if I went back and pulled up your files of your emails and your employee monthly one-on-ones and all the various things, how much is culture being talked about? How much is the human being being talked about beyond just the numbers and all the various things? You can't fake authenticity. When you genuinely care about people, right, it shows up here, because if I care about your people, if you care about your people enough, I care about how you go home, because how you go home is going to determine how you come back, if you come back, right? And so here's the thing. I'm going to put you back into your groups just here for a couple minutes. Here's the exercise. At your tables, none of you work at the same organization, yeah? So different organizations, but of your organizations, right? You're at a job fair. We're going to create an avatar of an ideal employee here in a second. Your job at this job fair is, how do you get this person to want to come work at your organization? What would your pitch be to get them to come work where you work versus everywhere else that wants them, right? So real quick before we do that, let's create this avatar. Give me some character traits of an individual that you would want to work in your organization, or the next person that you would hire to come work alongside you. So let's come up with 10 character traits that you would want in this person. What do you got? Driven. What else? Flexible, yes. Personable, like it. Teachable. What else do you want in this person that works on? Curious. What do you want? Friendly. Passionate. Thinking what? They engage. They're very engaged. Two more. What do you want? Ask questions and bold. Like it. So you flip this person's resume over, and they have all these traits. You're like, look, you see this person? If they had all these character traits, who wants them? Very clear. Everyone who wants this person, right? So everyone's looking for this person, right? I'm going to give you 3 quick minutes and pull together the places that you work. If you had a pitch for your job, what are the character traits of your job that you would pitch to make them want to come work where you work versus everywhere else that's vying for this hot shot game changer? Okay, so 3 minutes. Put together what are the pitch, what are the benefits, what are the things you would sell to this person to want to come work here versus everywhere else. 3 minutes. Go. All right, spring back as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, which of you want to go first? Give me this pitch. What would your pitch be to make me want to come work where you work versus everyone else who wants me? Because I got all these amazing character traits. I love the confidence. We're awesome. You're awesome. Come work here. That's a starting point. What else you got? We can just do it as a group. What are some things you would pitch to make them come work where you work? Okay, that's important. I want some autonomy.
Organization promotes self-growth, like education opportunities. Always want you to grow as a person, never stop learning.
Okay, I like that. I feel that. Are the places you work that bad right now? Okay. I like flexibility. Again, especially this next generation, they want some flexibility. They don't want to be tied to a thing and rigid. That's all you can do, right? Give me a couple more. What would you pitch?
Very mission driven. So very value focused.
Okay, mission driven, value focused. I like it. What do you got?
Well, our motto is it takes a village. So everybody's working together no matter what, and ain't nobody alone.
Okay.
So no matter what, somebody's going to be on your side. You feel like you're not working there to help.
Teamwork. I'm with it. Now here's the thing. We do a lot of trainings all the time with organizations, and we actually were doing a room of about 70. It was all HR gals, and a couple of them was like, "Can we lie?" But that's the reality of a lot of HR right now. They're selling this thing. Because if I asked you all the things that you sold to me, right, that says we have this, and this, because that's all I tell folks. Skip past the 401ks. Everyone's got that to a various degree, right? It's about truly this stuff versus that stuff. And when they're selling this into this person, after like 3 weeks in, they're like, go back to the HR, like, where was that organization you was telling me about? Because my day-to-day experience isn't like that. On the floor, in the break room, how much is complaining versus people really passionate and feeling like they're feeling valued, all the various things that are out there. The core of this is, get into this, right, is how do you start to bring these things alive? Because that's what we're challenging organizations, especially in the 21st century. It's not the stuff, flexibility is good, but when you can pitch to say literally, we're not perfect, but we make progress. And this is our North Star. This is the behaviors that we work off of. I call these behavioral competencies. Most organizations, they have things in place today. If I was 10 minutes late to work once a week, you have a very clear process to probably manage me out. How many of you have things in place to manage somebody out who's negative all the time? Most don't, right? And actually, when I was at Wells Fargo, I actually did get HR on board with me because that was my department. I had this one gal that was 2 years from retiring, and she was just toxic as hell. Just, I'm not changing, it's what it is. And again, you don't get to just put this stuff out in the air, right? And so again, I created a list of clear expectations. And again, I started pulling her in my office and was coaching. Think you're great. I want you to be here. Her name was Joanne. I want you to be here until you retire, Joanne. But again, you are not going to come out here and spew negativity into the environment. Guess what happened? Early retirement. You get to do whatever. Here's the analogy to get people to really recognize, right? Let's say you got your child 5 years old, right? Take them to the zoo. You give them a lollipop, buy them a $2 lollipop, and they're having a good old time, enjoying a beautiful sunny day, enjoying a lollipop. All of a sudden, a stranger comes up and snatches that lollipop from them. What are you going to do? We're going to have some conversations. You know what I mean? Who the hell are you to steal from my child? You would never let somebody just steal from your child. Is that a pretty fair statement? Well, that person that's negative all day long, what are they doing to your energy? They're stealing and draining your energy. And so what does your kid really want? That $2 lollipop or an energetic parent when they come home? Very clear. But what are we allowing? We are allowing this stuff to happen. This is the life happening to us versus for us. We have to set this expectation. So I call behavioral competencies, I call them rumble strips, right? So when you're on the interstate, what's the purpose of having rumble strips? Awareness to keep you on track, right? The road is the vision. If you have companies that have a vision statement, right? This is where we're going. A vision statement is important for companies. This is where we're going. Do you want on the bus, right? Very clear. But the rumble strip says, hey, you're getting off the path. When you get off the path, can you feel it? You feel that, right? Similar, when people's behaviors are acting outside of what you said as your clear behavioral values, can you feel it? When people are in ego or negativity, you can feel this stuff. And that's the importance of having this well established. And that's where down to your micro teams, whether you lead a team today or not, I would take this back to your team and say, this is not about, be very clear, this is not about making your organization better. This is about you fighting for your best life. Because again, nobody just wakes up, very few people wake up and say, I want to just crap on everyone's day. It's life happening to them, and it's these behaviors, right? So again, love the people, but address the behavior. That's what we have to get after when you really want to move this thing forward in the 21st century. And again, this is stuff that every single one of you can do, right? Even if it's only, let's say you don't have any authority today, could you grab 2 or 3 coworkers and say, let's define for the 3 of us, what is it that we want for ourselves? What do we want in our lives, right? All the various things that we're after. Now, the key in this is we have to determine where our marker is. If I was lost and I called you for help, what's one of the first questions you would ask me? Where are you at, right? You have to know where I'm at to where I'm going. The core of a GPS system, what are the 2 critical components for a GPS system to work effectively? Where are you going and where you're at, right? So on the second page of the workbook you have there, in the middle of the page is a place for you to rate your culture. So what I want you to do is I want you to rate your current culture. Now, not your culture of your entire organization, because again, let's say one of our clients, a bigger client of ours, is 2,000 people. And out of the 2,000 people in the organization, you're not rating the whole organization, you're rating your micro culture. Because it's your micro culture that has the day-to-day experience. How many people on a day-to-day basis within your team do you actually engage with? Maybe a dozen, maybe a couple of dozen. So when you shrink that down to the people that you actually interact with, their energy, their attitude, good or bad, that's the reality of your day-to-day experience mostly. Right now, there's certain things that come top down that can affect you, but for the most part, my day-to-day experience is an aggregate or a sum total of all of the energy, the attitudes of the people that I engage with, right? So if we're going to scale a 1 to 10, right? If a 10 was a realistic utopia, how many of these things that you guys said makes up a healthy culture are impossible to get to? None of them. It takes work. So if this was a realistic utopia, let's say a 10 culture is where you would say, man, this stuff is all very evident. If this was your 10, and this was your 1 where you had all this type of stuff, where would you rate your current culture scale of 1 to 10? So just write that down on your paper where it says rate your microculture. Just give it a ballpark figure, okay? Now, the importance of this number, the number doesn't really matter as much as, let's say I came back and we did another seminar 6 months from now, right? And 6 months from now, your score was the exact same. Who has to bear primary responsibility over that? You do. You know what makes it up, and you know what moves it up. Now, can you get it to a 10 by yourself? No, you need your coworkers. But when you look at these behaviors up here, right? Of these behaviors, how many of these are behaviors that you as an individual could pick up and bring forth into the culture at a higher level today? Almost all. I mean, some of them maybe not as much, but almost 80 to 90% minimum. You may be a fun person, but if you came in and were more fun, is that going to elevate the culture? You may be a positive person, but if you came in more positive, does that elevate the culture? 100%. And so this is the thing where in that, it's your number. You know what makes it up, and you know what moves it up. So this is the empowerment that you have. To empower somebody is to give them authority. You have the authority. We do this in our home, right? We have this on one of our main classes. We have girls. Our girls, right? What are the behaviors that you say you don't want and what we do want? We hold them accountable to these type of things, right? What are the culture that we're trying to create in our home? This is something that every single one of us has some level of authority or empowerment over creating. Now, the power of this, when we get into this, of moving this up, people are talking about right now personal responsibility. It's a big word in society right now. But when people are talking about personal responsibility, who are they really talking about? Somebody else. Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. I'm going to lunch, right? Personal responsibility is about you taking responsibility over putting yourself on a pathway of leading and living your best life. Now, again, you have to have a definition of what that looks like for you, but there is nothing stopping you from that. Again, I'll say the statement again. You cannot and you will not be able to live your best life, whatever it might look like, independent of an ideal workplace culture. Ideal is not perfect. It's about progress. In order to have progress, it comes down to your microculture. In your microculture, there are behaviors that you have influence over. That's leadership, right? There's two words we don't use enough in the English language when we talk about these things. Those two words are courage and cowardice. Courage is not the absence of fear. To have fear is to be human. Humans have had fear, right? It kept us alive for most of human history. Why fear is it's biological. Fear is deeply rooted because it kept us alive for most of human history. Challenge is, in today's day and age, what do you really have to be afraid of? Next to nothing. I mean, again, be aware, right? But fear still is a very biological thing. If you've never heard the acronym for fear, what fear really is false evidence appearing real. It's a figment of your imagination, right? The core of that is courage is not the absence of fear. We all have fear. Courage is the ability to see the fear and move forward anyway. Move forward anyway. Cowardice is not an insult. Cowardice is an assessment. Cowardice is the inability to move forward because of that fear. So let's say you went back to your team and you do this exercise. And your team, all your coworkers, they made a list, what we don't want and what we do want. And then tomorrow, someone was kind of, Jay, that comment you made was kind of judgmental. If you don't have that conversation, what are you being in the moment? A coward. You can't move forward because why won't you confront it? Most people are afraid of confrontation. They're afraid of conflict. But again, be very clear. There is no pathway forward that's easy. That's why it takes courage. And that's the part where, especially right now in America, again, we have a disease in our country of no longer dreaming in a country that was built on dreams. Most people don't even have the courage to dream, let alone share their dream. Now, be very clear. I would say be careful who you share your dreams with, right? Because you want to kill a big dream, share it with a small-minded person. People are eager as hell right now to tear down your dream. Who do you think you are? All the various things. That's because they can't do it. It's going to take courage, right? So there's two big misnomers we push against in this space. Question number one, I always ask folks, what do you like most about your job? Now, the reason I have you do the exercise of selling your culture to that hot shot primarily is, I don't care what your culture is. If you rated your culture a 2 out of 10, there's something there that made it a 2 versus 1. There's something about your job. There's at least something about your job that's good. Probably multiple things. But the challenge is, if I asked all of you right now, if you made a list of all the things that you do like, not what you don't like, I'm not telling you to put on rose-colored glasses, but all the things that you do like about your job. On a monthly basis, how often are you being mindful and sitting in the gratitude of what you do like about your job? If I ask the average person, the reality is not enough. And I'm talking 30 seconds to a minute, just sitting in the moment like, yeah, that's why I like this work. That's why I do this type of stuff, just for 30 seconds at a time, whatever it is. The primary reason people don't, as soon as you get into work every day, what's waiting for you? Work. Work is waiting for you, right? We call this good going on offense. And it is more important now than in my entire lifetime that I can remember, right? Good has to go on offense because what's happening right now? How many of you in the last 6 months had spent any amount of time watching the news and walked away feeling better about life? Unless you got lucky with some feel-good story. What is the news station's number one job? Fear. Why? Why? Be clear. The news station's number one job is ratings because those ratings sell advertisement, which makes them money. The news stations are a business. They are a business. You can have a very neutral event happening in the world. Turn to Fox News versus MSNBC and it feels like two different events happen, right? Because they're feeding us fear to keep us watching. They learned this back in the 70s. They came out with this tagline, if it bleeds, it leads. Because they know as humans, we are exponentially more attracted to negativity than positivity because negativity kept us alive for most of human history. So biologically, that's why we're so attracted to negativity, right? They understand that. So they're causing all this divisiveness to make more money. They don't really care about us. They care about those dollars. They care about the ratings, all the various things. How many of you in the last 3 months had spent a significant amount of time on social media, walked away more optimistic about the human race? I'll wait. Unless you're really good with your algorithms. Some people get really good with algorithms. But the point is, we are being conditioned at every given turn to look at what's wrong with life, right? If you listen to the narrative happening right now, the narrative globally, it could easily feel like one of the worst times in human history, right? That's part of the reason why happiest nations in the world, right, under 30-year-olds, ranked 62nd in the world as happiest. 62nd. My oldest is 29. I have a 29-year-old, and she's so consumed. She's getting better at it. But I'm like, what's happening across the world has no direct impact on you right now. Wake up today, make the most of today, right? But it feels like that. The reality is, we are in the most comfortable time in human history overall, right? You can literally pick up your smartphone, click like 3 buttons, and anything your heart desires will show up on your doorstep with 1 or 2 days with a smiley face in the box, right? The convenience of today, right? And I always keep myself, I'm not minimizing what any of you might be going through. But the reality is this, this is the grounding exercise I do with myself. On my worst day, I imagine a time warp portal open up. And my great-great-great-grandparents walk through. And I got to explain to them how bad my life is. Grandpa, sit down and let me tell you how bad my life is while I order us Uber Eats. You know what I mean? And that's the reality of we need that perspective. I'm not minimizing it, but we have to have perspective. The most comfortable time in human history, but we're being conditioned to look at what's wrong at every given corner. When you're at the grocery store, at the checkout line, what kind of headlines do you see across the magazine racks? Gossip, drama. When you pause, when I'm talking about the ripple effect, awareness, if you pause and just have awareness just for a moment of how much negativity versus positivity you're exposed to, it's not even close. So the point of that is, it's conditioning us as a society. You ever worked alongside someone who's just negative every single day? Right? If you haven't, you might be that person. Negative every single day. Do you ever ask yourself, how did they get there? In my lifetime, I've never seen a baby come out the womb just mean mugging the world. It's a condition, right? Which when you're conditioned around it, right? So again, like, who hurt you? Come here, you need a hug. You know what I mean? Some people, they just need a hug, right? But that's the conditioning, and now it's making its way down into our society. So we have, of the things that you do like about your job, the things that are right with life, you need to go on offense. As a matter of fact, I just did this extra. I bought so my partner, she works at Midwest Street Medicine in Sioux Falls, that's basically dealing with houselessness. So she deals with real life trauma, real life stuff all the time. And again, I just bought her, and I'm doing it myself. I bought her a jar of marbles in in a little mason jar, and every time good stuff happens, I said, just put a marble in the jar. So when she's having a moment, she just shake. You know what? Perspective. Holy, that's like 500 marbles in there, right? Life is overall good, but in the moment we hyper focus our amygdala, right? If you understand the power of the brain, your amygdala is the fight, flight, or freeze, and that assesses. Oh, it makes you feel like it's amplified in the moment. Give yourself perspective, right? So there's two questions again we have to push against, our ideas we have to push against in this moment. We've all heard these. The first one is the grass is greener on the other side. How often in your career have you ever found that to be true? Sometimes maybe, but very rare, right? Where is the grass greener? Where you water it, right? And so whatever the size of your organization is, right? This is an analogy taken to your organization, right? So you look at Wells Fargo, a lot of employees, right? For Wells Fargo to have a better culture, each area, each department, each microculture, they have to do what? They have to water their portion. This department over here, let's say you guys were 3 different departments. You can't make their department better. You only can bring your watering can. I may offer them some water, but they still have to water the lawn or the culture around them, right? And so when everyone understands the grass is greener where you water it, are you coming in every day with a watering can? Or are you coming in with a blowtorch, right? And that's the side of it of when you water your culture, when you come in, and this is the water. If you came in helpful, and you were uplifting, and you were a better communicator, and you were more respectful and more supportive, what are you doing to the culture? You're watering it. You're making it better. Who's stopping you from doing this? Nobody. This is 100% something that you can do. But most people, it's easier to talk about it because it's lazy, right? And our brain, be very clear, your brain doesn't care about good or bad. It doesn't even know necessarily right or wrong. It knows familiar and unfamiliar. So what happens when we have a society addicted to negativity? That's what it is. We're addicted to it. People fall into their addiction. Where the grass is greener, where you water it. The second misnomer that we push against, you heard this one as well. If you love what you do, never work a day in your life. Ever had a job you loved? Did you still work? Damn straight. We own our businesses. I love what I do. Be very clear. I work, right? The goal should be this. This is where it should be upgraded. If you like what you do, minimum. If you love it, call it a bonus. But if you can like what you do, because that's core, you have to at least like what you do. But more importantly, like who you're doing it with. Like who you're doing it with. This is one of those critical components that this is one of those top 3 now. We're starting to push organizations down this road because if they really want to have a lasting culture, you have to have focus on the relationships. I'm going to give you some science and facts of this. So Harvard has been doing the longest standing study on happiness that exists. It's an 80, closing in on close to a 90-year longitudinal study. So generation after generation, all of this data, right? Harvard for 90 years or so. The number one indicator on your level of happiness in life comes down to relationships. Not even close, 1 and 2. Landslide, number one indicator on your level of happiness in life comes down to your relationships, right? What's interesting about the study was the people in the top quartile and the people in the bottom quartile had the same number of life events happening. Life is going to happen. They estimate once you turn 18, every 3 to 5 years, you're going to have a major life event happening. This is a fact, right? Good and bad. Marriages, divorces, births in your family, deaths in your family. Life is going to happen one way or the other, right? And the core of that is who you're doing life with. How are we encouraging people to foster those relationships? One thing that I got from when I was at Wells Fargo, do you guys still do the Q12 survey? Coming right up, Q12. One of the questions, same question, sir. One of the questions they ask on there is, do you have a best friend at work? Do you have a best friend at work? Now, I always watch, people always would scoff at that, the best friend. But there's a reason why they ask that question. It may not be your actual best friend, but ask yourself this question, of your literal best friend in life, what benefits does your actual best friend give you? What do they do for you? They listen to you, they help. So what? They provide peace. They show up for you. You laugh with them. All these various things. Take these character traits. Could you find these character traits in some of your coworkers? 100%. 100%. So the goal here, right, is now, how often do you see your coworkers compared to your actual best friend? Not even close. Landslide difference, right? So the core of that is getting people to start to foster a few deeper quality relationships. Why this matters in life, right? If your mom's going through cancer and some chemo treatments, right? Isn't it nice to say, "Hey Troy, how's your mom doing?" "You know what? Mom's doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. How do you feel?" You feel seen, you feel cared for, right? It's the relationships. Being human beings, we are relationship creatures. We have no superpowers other than we have an intellect and we had community. That is the thing that separated human beings from every other species, our ability to think, and our survival came down to community. If you weren't in community 5,000 years ago, what happened to you? You died. You didn't make it without community. It is deeply wired in our DNA, which is another reason why we're the 62nd amongst under 30-year-olds, because though we are more connected than ever, they're more lonely. You ever see your kids and have multiple kids who have like a sleepover and they're having a sleepover and everyone's on their phone? Like when we had sleepovers growing up, wasn't that was the business, man? Like we was all night building forts and doing stuff. But nowadays we're so disconnected. It's about relationship building, the core of that. If I asked all of you right now, write down the top 10 best experiences of your life, I would be willing to bet the number one common denominator amongst all of them, it had to do with other people, right? It's just better most often when someone else is there. I use the analogy, any golfers in the room? Golf? No golfers? All right, well, I have to golf. So imagine golfing for a second, right? How rare is it for someone to get a hole-in-one? Super rare, right? And I was asking people that at the golf, I said, would you ever want to hit a hole-in-one by yourself? I personally would be pissed off. It's not about believability, because people that know me and know I'm an honest person. If I said it happened, it happened. But think about that. Something that rarely ever happens, all of a sudden, oh my God, oh my God. And then high five myself. And then 3 hours later, hey, Paula, guess what? I hit a hole-in-one. Oh, that's cool, homie. That's cool. It's about the moment, right? When you're going through things, when you're on vacation, you're laughing together, you're experiencing life. The thing that takes up that you're at for 40, 50 hours a week, whatever it is, your job, how do you add value and laughter in the thing? The quality of life comes down to your quality of experiences, right? The really end of your life, when you're looking back, the quality of your life is going to come down to the quality of your relationships and the quality of your experiences, both of which can happen at a high clip if you're intentional at work, right? So here's the thing. I'm going to put you back in your groups, have this quick conversation. What is one thing, because we're going to break this down to empowerment, right? What is one thing, something that you can control or you can influence, that if it improved over the next year, your score of your culture would move up 1 point, right? And it could be something off this list. It could be something else. But what is something that if it improved over the next year, your score moves up 1 point? Now, here's the caveat. It has to be something that you can control or something that you can influence. Because here's what's happening in society right now. Do we have a finite amount of energy every single day? I don't care how much energy drinks you have. I don't care how much Starbucks you have. You have a limited amount of energy every single day. It's finite, right? And there's 3 buckets that, part of your freedom, there's 3 buckets that you get to choose where you place your energy, right? Every day that's yours. The first bucket is what I can control. And what do you have control over every single day? Yourself, your energy, your attitude, your effort, that is 100% yours. Every day when you wake up, second bucket, what do you have influence over? The world around me. I can't control the people, but if I come in a really good mood or a really pissy mood, am I influencing others? 100%. Every day you have influence on every single person that you come in contact with. The problem lies this. The third bucket that we get to choose is all right, it's our freedom. The third bucket that we can choose to place our energy in is what we're concerned about, right? Now, this isn't getting political, but should we be concerned about what's happening in Iran? 100%. I should be concerned about that. A couple months back, should we have been concerned what was happening to your neighbors to the north of Minneapolis with Ice Nut? For sure. How much control or influence did you have over those things? Next to none. Maybe say a prayer, right? What happens is, how much does those things dominate the airwaves and dominate conversations? Almost all of it, yeah? What are you doing with your energy in that bucket? You're wasting it. Now, I don't need to know you to know this. None of you, including me, none of us has enough energy today to take care of ourselves like we should. None of us has enough energy today to be the partner that you would like to be, or the parent you would like to be, or be the friend that you would like to be. So if you don't have enough energy today to pour into those buckets of what I can control and I can influence, why in the hell are we so addicted to what we're concerned about? Well, the answer is because it's lazy, it's easy, right? So what is one thing within your control or one thing within your influence? If this measurably improved over the next year, your score would move up at least 1 point. So share in your groups, what is that thing? Make sure it's measurable, something you can control and influence, and why is that important from your perspective? What would it do to change your microsphere, which change your macrosphere of your life? Okay, so one thing that would, if it improved, your score moves up at least 1 point. Could be on this list, could be something else, whatever it is. 3 minutes, talk about it. Go.
Is it, are you picking one thing for yourself or the company?
If your microculture, if it improved, like if communication got better, but again, it has to be something that you can control or you can influence. All right, let's bring it back as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, throw a couple at me. What are the things that if these areas improve, your score moves up at least 1 point? Well, actually, we only got 6 of us. Let's go, everyone go. If what improved, your score moves up 1 point.
Yeah, positivity, talk about positivity and information sharing.
Okay, can you control or influence that?
Yeah.
100%.
Like uplifting and highlighting.
Can you control or influence it? 100%.
In the nature where we're at, it's just sharing the workload.
Sharing the workload, hand off more stuff. You can control and influence that.
Mine was effective communication. I'm a solo entrepreneur that's delegating tasks, so that communication kind of gets lacked.
Okay, huge. You can control and influence it.
Also communication.
Communication,
Effective communication.
effective communication, like that.
Mine was just showing up.
Just showing,
Actually showing up, participating.
engaging.
Slacking off, basically.
100%. Now, here's the thing. Write that down. Hold yourself accountable to that thing. Because here's what's happening. If you don't write it down and hold yourself accountable to something that it's simple, it's just not easy. Because anything that's easy to do is easy not to do. And be very clear. Your brain will fight you every step of the way because it wants those familiar grooves, right? It doesn't know what good or bad, right or wrong. It knows familiar and unfamiliar. But what you're saying is you're taking control and putting yourself on a path of leading and living your best life. As I shared earlier, again, you cannot and you will not be able to live your best life, whatever it might look like, independent of what? An ideal workplace culture. Ideal is not perfect. Ideal is about progress. And again, for it to have progress, it takes every individual in the organization to work towards that progress. Now, think about this. Let's say you brought this back to your teams, right? Again, this is a simple exercise and people you work with. And if you got people to do this exercise and you got every single person to pick one thing to own their part and put it up and say, that's my commitment. That's my commitment. Because here, you're not fighting to make your organization better. What are you really fighting for? Yourself. You're fighting to go home better for you. And if everyone picked it up and moved their score forward one point, what does that mean? That's not just improvement, that's transformational. A 10% increase in 1 year. We see our clients that do it, but it takes a massive commitment of one thing, 365 days, right? Or 52 weeks, or 5 days a week, whatever the case is for your job. It takes that daily commitment beyond the work, beyond the stuff, beyond the emails. Because here's the misnomer. Here's the thing to stop lying to ourselves. How many of you in the work that you do in the last, let's say, 6 months has gotten it all done? We're like, I got nothing else to do. Fallacy. For most people, it's always going to be stuff to do. This is about priority. And if you start to prioritize yourself and you start to prioritize the people that you say you care about, this is one of the most simple things. When I come in today, whatever you said, positive attitude, effective communication, what am I going to do today and this week to move it forward and move it forward and move it forward? Anything, again, how do you build confidence? You put the work in. Anything you put the work in on long enough, a whole year, there is zero. You can start to do this every 3 to 6 months of improving. At least if you rated yourself, let's say you picked your top 5 things and you rated yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, wherever it's at. And if we just pick one thing a quarter, I'm going to move this. I'm going to become a better teammate this quarter, measurably. I'm going to become more helpful, more uplifting. When you start to bring these behaviors into the culture, that's the stuff that it's made of. It's an aggregate or a sum total of all of the individuals that make it up. Now, here's the reality, right? There's obstacles in the path, right? There's no easy path forward. So again, identify what the obstacles are that would challenge you. My other company, Elevate You, we have this new process. It's called cognitive friction. And when you start to recognize the cognitive friction, it's saying, if this happens, then this. So stop being surprised by the behaviors that come against you. You know what they are. You can probably imagine what they are. But again, so create the, if this happens, I'm going to respond this way. So you can start to create that auto mechanism to start to act in a certain way. Now, why is it more organizations don't invest in culture? Well, the core of that is a lot of organizations, takes too much time, costs too much money. And the biggest reason that we see more organizations aren't doing it is the process of change. Right now, we don't work for organizations that want us to fix them, right? Hey, my people are the problem. No, that leader is most often the problem in that realm. Everyone has to be in the boat. Most people don't like the process of change. They just want people to get fixed, fix them. When we launched Think 3D back in 2016, the number one thing people were calling us for? Millennials. Oh, millennials, they don't want to work the same. Well, why would they? When they saw us coming home too tired and they saw us burnt out, why would they want to work the same when we showed them what work was, right? We have to show them that the process of change is possible. Our argument to this is, on the other side, what happens if you get cultural alignment? What if you got everyone in there to grab their one thing in the midst of however you measure their productivity and measure their annual ratings? You folded this in and said, what's your one thing as an individual that you are going to commit to making better? What happens if you start to tap into people's full potential? And then from that, you start to save time and money because turnover goes down. If turnover goes down, does that save your organization time, money, and effort? 1,000%. There's a real dollar amount to it. There's a real time amount to it. So you start to get that. That's the reason to move this forward. Now, the challenge in this, right, is what gets people to really take action? Logic or emotion? Emotion. Way more emotion, like how you feel matters, right? So works piece of the pie, this is on the next page of your workbook, and I'm going to walk you through how to do this exercise. I want to challenge you to do it afterwards. But how you do this thing, right? Well, actually, I came up with this when I left Wells Fargo, I was working 60 hours a week. I probably still work 60 hours a week, but I was grinding, right? I'm the breadwinner of my family. And I didn't mind it because, again, I take care of my household, so on and so forth. But I know even working 60 hours a week, it didn't tell the whole story. So how you do this, right? We all get the same 168 hours in a week. The first thing you want to do is subtract how much time you actually spend sleeping, right? So let's say in this example, I sleep 8 hours a night, 7 days a week. That's 56 hours over a whole week. I would subtract that 56 hours of sleep minus 168 hours in the week. I'm left with 112 hours, right? So whatever your waking hours is, you take that same number, drop it here to the second box from the bottom, 112. Now you got to estimate how much does work really take up in the totality of our time? Because again, it's not just 40 hours, 50 hours, it's how much time in total. So let's just say, for instance, you're a 8 to 5 employee with 1 hour lunch. That should be 45 hours locked in, because even though you have an hour unpaid lunch, it's still bookended by work, right? So estimate how much time, including your lunch, you're kind of clocked into work. Next, you estimate how much time does it take you to get ready for the purpose of going to work. So let's say you get up at 6 and leave the house at 7 to go to work. That's an hour a day getting ready for the purposes of going to work. So estimate and add that up over a whole work week. Next is your commute time. Let's say it's 15 minutes each way, 30 minutes a day, 2.5 hours a week. Estimate how much you're commuting both to and from work. Next is decompressing. How we define decompressing is when you get home from work, how long does it take you to be 100% present with yourself, with your family, where work is no longer on your mind? So estimate how long does it take to decompress and now have no more impact from work on your day. The night prior is representative of weeknights. So during the weeknights, are you still thinking about work? For anyone in the room who's a salaried employee, are you sneaking that phone open and getting some extra work in? During the evenings, how much time do you still spend thinking about work or getting work done? The Sunday prior is representative of your days off. And so on a weekend or your days off, are you still thinking about work or recovering from work? Or again, the salaried folks sneaking some extra work in? How much time on your days off are you still spending around work? And then last but not least, dialogue. When you meet up with a member of your family or one of your friends, what's one of the top 2 questions you're guaranteed to ask each other? How's work? How much time do you spend talking about work, whether to a spouse, a friend, maybe a furry animal at home, whatever it is? How much do you spend talking about work? Estimate that up, right? So you add all that up. In this example, right, 71.5 hours in total. You divide that number by your waking hours, is going to give you a percentage. This is the reason why I say with such confidence, you cannot and you will not be able to live your best life, whatever it might look like, independent of an ideal workplace culture, because the average working professional spends between 50 and 75% of their waking hours at work, going to work, thinking about work, etc. First thing, right, it's not to be depressing, it's just calling a reality. Is there any other bucket in your life that has that significant of impact to the rest of your life as work does? Not even close. Not even close, right? So the challenge in this, right, how many of you have children over the age of 16? Half the room or so, right? For those with kids over the age of 16, let's say I pull up in an 84 DeLorean and I can take you back to the future, right? And I'm going to take you back over that critical age of 6 to 16 with your kid, over your kid's life, right? Those are critical ages of your child's development. And I'm going to give you 1 quality day a month back with your child over that 10-year period of time. So we're talking 120 days. If you had the money, right? If you had enough money, how much would you pay to be able to have 120 quality days back with your child over that critical 10-year period of time, knowing those 120 days, how much stronger would your relationship be with your child today if you had those 120 days? Knowing how much that would elevate the trajectory of how much you influence your child for the rest of their life. If you had the money for something like that, how much would you pay? Let's just put a number. Would you pay $50,000? Easy. I mean, everybody's like, oh, easy, $50,000. So let's put it at $50,000. Now, I'm not going to ask you to cut a check, because I don't have a DeLorean. We can't go to Back to the Future. But going forward, why this is important. This number is such a critical thing to determine exactly where are you at today. This isn't about quantum leap. In this example, it's not getting 63.8% down to 45% overnight. If I can get this down by just 3%, the magic is in the margin. If I can get it down by just 3%, 3% decrease is 1 quality day a month. Now, if your microculture had way more of this, would you decompress from work less? For sure. Would you think about work and have to do work on nights and weekends less? 100%. Would you talk about work, at least in a negative light, less? 1,000%. So you very clearly see a better culture gets this number down, right? And that's the commitment. Obviously, I'm not asking folks to cut a check. I'm asking you to cut down your commitment, because you have absolute influence on bettering your culture, no matter what organization you're in, no matter who you're around. I don't care if it starts with 1 coworker, right? I teach this in a different session called the Leadership IOU. IOU is you lead in, right? You only can teach through the clarity of your example. So you make the commitment and you lead yourself first. And once you start to do that, now you can grab a coworker and say, hey, Troy, let's lock in. Do you want a better culture to go home from? Yeah, I do. All right, let's lock in. Me and you, we're going to commit together. Now you lead out. And once you do that, I always tell folks, even if you have a bad culture, do that for 6 months. If me and Troy locked in for 6 months and we said every day, high five, let's go do this thing, right? Are we going to influence more of our coworkers? 100%. One other person is enough to start to influence the culture. So now I say 6 months later, I'll wait to go to my boss. And I said, have you noticed the difference around here? Actually, I have. You want to know where I started? Me and Troy, we locked in. Now, leading up, ask for them to say, can you participate and give us some resources or whatever? If they say, get back to work, they say everything you need to know about them, right? That's the part to move away from this, right? So the core of this is understand the impact of this. And now baseline from that, knowing that work has the biggest impact over our lives, is it possible to say, I don't like my job and I love my life? Is that possible? It's pretty tough. You may love every single thing you do outside of work, but when work is less than, are you eager to go do that hobby? Are you eager to go hang out with your friends? You're burnt out. I'm going to go home, scroll, click, do all the various things, right? So here's the challenge. I'm going to put you back in the group to have this conversation. Think about an average day, the people you go home to, and or the type of activities you engage in, right? So if you're married, obviously spouse, you have kids. If not, hobbies. Think about an average day, the people you go home to, and or the type of activities you engage in. And I want you to compare. We're gonna have a quick conversation about what is it like going home to those individuals and or engaging in those activities on a day where it was challenging in a good way and it was positive and you had this stuff. What's it like going home on those days compared to going home on what I call a driveway day? Who's ever gone home from work and sat in your driveway or garage before going in the house? You know what I'm talking about? That actually was my tipping point. When I was at corporate, won't name names of the company I was at, I'll never forget the day. My tipping point day, May 26, 2015. At the time, as my wife's birthday, beautiful 80 degrees outside, found myself in my driveway, burnt out. I had just built this 4-year leadership development model from scratch. My company could care less. It was all about just do the work. And I asked myself 2 really hard questions that day. I actually made a video about to remember that moment. Number 1 question of all days, my wife's birthday, I asked myself, am I about to walk in this house the best husband that I can? Now be clear, nobody goes home from work at 100%. Because if you go home from work at 100%, that means you didn't work all day. It takes energy to work. But going home at 75 or 80% versus 45 to 50%, that is a drastic difference. The one that hit me harder, I actually have 3 daughters. Makes me a princess producer is my title. And my oldest daughter is 11 years older than my middle daughter. And I know how quickly time goes by and they're no longer excited to see you come home and his dad can have $20. And I was like, am I about to walk in this house the best father that I can be? And I knew the answer was no, because I worked for a company that didn't care about me as a person. And so that was my tipping point of something had to change, right? So at your tables, 3 quick minutes. What's the differences for you on a good day versus one of those toxic days? What changes in the activities you engage in, how you engage, all the et cetera? What changes on a good day versus toxic day for you? 3 minutes, conversation, go. Yeah. All right, let's bring it back as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, toss it at me. What are some of the differences for you? Good day versus toxic day. What changes? Morale. Big difference, very clear differentiation. What else changes?
Energy, man.
Absolutely. Something could be better. Energy for what?
Work and after work.
Everything is energy. When you don't have it, right? The things you do it for, like, do any of you work just to work? I'm working just to pay bills. Now, people say that again. That's very clear. That's not living. That's existing, right? But energy for my hobbies, energy for my family, energy for myself, right? Huge. Energy is currency, right? So how much is that really worth? What else changes? Good day versus toxic. Mental capacity, right? Does your diet change? Good day, man, I'm gonna keep it going. I'm gonna cook something, whatever the case is, right? Bad day, you driving through. You guys have Little Caesars here? I always say Little Caesars Hot and Ready was born out of bad culture. Because you don't got to think about it. It's $6. Shut up, kids. Eat the pizza. Go to your room. Right. The reality of this is, and the impact. We have one of our clients does. They have we're their leadership development for their entire organization, and we do a 2-day training for the leaders. And on our 2-day, we send them home on that first night. We say, when you go home tonight, go home with those who are going home to a partner or kids. Ask the 3 critical questions. Can you tell when I had a bad day? If so, how? And what impact does that have on you? Without fail, usually we have about 20 to 30 people per session. Without fail, 2 to 3 people come back very emotional the next day because we think we're hiding it. We think we mask it. We think, and when they have that conversation about what is it really doing, again, going back to that analogy of what would you do to someone who snatches a lollipop from your kid versus how much it's not sending you home with the right energy, right? How many married folks do we have in the room? Any married folks? 1. For the folks, again, think about your wedding day, right? When you get married, you're looking across the aisle from your future spouse and you looked at them and said, I'm going to love you and guide you and protect you and give you the best 67% I got left over. No, what do you say? All of me. But the thing that sends you home less than, or again, those who are parents in the room, when they place that beautiful baby girl or baby boy in your hands, you told them, like, that's every parent in the room knows that moment. When they place that life in your hand, you can be pregnant and all the things, but when you see that life form and I'm now responsible for something beyond me, you're like, I got you. I got you. And here's why I'm kind of bring this home in this realm. This is why this is important for all of us. The beautiful part of this is culture is a universal commonality. Even if you are the most selfish individual on the planet, should you care about a better culture? Yes, because that's what I take home to my family. What's interesting about this exercise here, 95% of the time, which you guys proved true today, 95% or better of the time, you know what doesn't make the list? Money. Now, is money important? For sure, to a degree, but be very clear. It's only every couple of weeks that financial deposit gets put into your bank account. Be clear on this. Every single day, you take home more than a paycheck. And that difference, how much is that worth, right? So I don't care who it is. If you get people really to wrap around this is why this is catching on so much in some of the companies that we work for, because when you get all your employees understanding this, wait a minute, this isn't about making this XYZ organization better. This is about me fighting for my best life. And I'm going to really draw this home. You really want to know why this is important? We can be honest. You look around in society right now. We are in a quiet desperation for survival. Look at people in the cars when you're driving to work. Look at it when they come home. You want real proof? 5 o'clock tonight. Go to the grocery store. Look people in their eyes. What are you going to see? Tired. Zombies. Exhaustion. Where'd they come from? Where they going? All the thing, and just dragging themselves, and life is just feels like this never-ending cycle, all these various things, right? Well, the reality of this is why this is important. Here's a fact. This is an opinion, this is a fact. 5 of the top 6 things that are killing us in our country right now, fact, is disease tied to stress. What's the number one cause of stress? Work. So if we can just be honest and say it out loud, the way we're doing it today, work is killing us. This is a fact. It's just a slow death, right? And that's the reality is this the American dream? Is this the thing that we fought for? Is these the now again, generation before, they didn't have as many choices. And that's what blows my mind right now. We are sliding in terms of the happiest nations. When again, the things in Sioux Falls, right? I recognize my dad, being a person of color, couldn't do the things that I'm the first black chair of the Chamber of Commerce in 119-year history. I'm doing things that he couldn't do, literally just because of the color of his skin or whatever the cases are. Maybe your parents because of economic statuses, whatever the cases. We have all these opportunities, and what's keeping us from taking advantage of these opportunities? Culprit number 1: unintended culture. How do we get here? The collateral damage, the unintended consequences of these things. We didn't get here because back in the 90s we had a evil CEO summit that they got together to say, how do we destroy people's lives? It was just decades of profits over people. They try to squeeze every dollar out of the stuff and they stop caring about the people behind that. And that's where this great shift is happening. So the collateral damage, here's this last question to kind of consider. How many of you, not that you don't love them or don't respect them, how many would go back and live the same exact life that your parents lived? Job, marriage, vacation, happiness, the whole nine. Who would sign up for their parents' life? No takers? Okay. At best, you get a room of 100, I get maybe 3 to 5%. There's small portion. There's some out there, but very few, right? Here's the more important question. How many of you at current feel confident your kids or your future kids would want the life that you are currently living right now? Who's confident in that? So I got 1.5 in there, right? Ish. This is why this is important. Now more than ever. A, we all know this as parents, right? Do your kids do as you do or do as you say? Do. They do both, but way more if they're watching us, right? What happens if you tell your child, you can be anything that you want to be? And they turn to look at you and say, then how come you're not? Ugh, right? And I take this very seriously, right? Because again, I'm not one. So my oldest is 29 down to a 12-year-old. My 29-year-old a couple years ago, she got me a bookmark. And again, I still work 60 hours a week. I'm in the community. I'm changing a whole lot of stuff. And she got me a bookmark that said, Dad, you're not a father who told me how to live. You lived and let me watch you do it. She's a nurse practitioner, not the same industry, but she's modeling her life after what I showed her. I showed her how to live holistically, to take care of yourself and travel and all these various things, right? And make an impact. My youngest, again, you want truth serum, go talk to a 12-year-old, right? Or at times 7. So 5 years ago, my youngest said to me, she goes, Dad, you work a lot. I said, let's talk about it. Because again, I didn't want to be that. I don't want to be that dad that says I'm grinding for my family. And my kid said, Dad, I just want more of your time. So I said, let's talk about it. I said, do you want me home at 5 o'clock every day, which is a possibility. I'm on business. And we'll still take vacations, but we'll probably talk about Minneapolis and Omaha, maybe Kansas City. Or I'm home at 7 o'clock a couple nights a week. And on Saturdays, I probably work until 1 o'clock. The rest of the time I'm there. And then we get to go to Disney World and Mexico. She goes, see you at 7. I invited her into the process because she understands why I'm doing it, why I'm doing all the various things, why I impact our community, all the things that I'm doing, right? So I'm not naive in that, right? So the part that we have to wrestle with is how are we leading forward in that way? So last set of questions real quick before you go to break. When you think about this, I talked about awareness, alignment, activating, amplifying, right? In this space, obviously, we talked about the way I'm talking about culture. Again, this is, people don't talk about culture like this, but this is the way we need to be talking about culture, because this isn't just making your job better. This is literally the foundation. If you want to lead and live your best life, you have to be aware of what it does in the world around us. Are you aligned with the belief of possibility? Most people, the reason they don't really do it is because they don't really believe it's possible. Because over your lifetime, how many times have you lied to yourself? How many times have you let yourself down? Countless. And so do you really believe it's possible? But that is the critical component of any real change. Anyone who's from a Christian faith, right? In the Bible, it says everything is possible if you believe. It takes belief, right? And that's the part of most people don't even believe it's possible, that they don't even allow themselves to have a dream. So if you don't have a dream, you can't hit a destination that's not defined. So you have to start with that belief of possibility. Here's something to wrestle with. Your life will never exceed your highest thought. Your life will never exceed beyond what you can imagine as possible. So you have to start with believing it's possible. Are you aligned in the belief of possibility? The core I'm going to have you have a conversation with here real quick in these last two. What's one thing you're willing to activate today? Out of all the stuff that I talked about, what would you be willing to commit? Because again, the freedom that you have is the freedom to do nothing with this, or the freedom to start with something you can do with this. And here's the part B of that I want you to have a quick conversation about, is the amplification, because that's the side of it of, we say we want to do it for ourselves, but again, it's just you. And so tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. If it's just you, it's often not enough. Who is going to be shortchanged if you don't? When you think about your kids, I say this to parents all the time. All the parents, I don't have to raise your hand because I know you would say yes. How many parents would die for their kids? And every parent would say, I'd die for my kids. Okay, noble, but easy. Because, thankfully, 99.999% of the time, you're never going to get called on it. Make a decision, you or your kid, right? The harder part is this. Will you have the courage to live for your kids? Because if you're not setting the example, where are they going to see the example from? And more importantly, why going back into businesses, or just as important back in businesses, your child may never come work at your organization. But the next person that you hire, that's somebody's kid. And if we as leaders, not by title, not by position, if we're not showing what it looks like to live and to be vibrant and alive, I'll give you this last example. There's a guy in Sioux Falls used to work up on the corner of Minnesota and Russell at Burger King. One of the most obnoxiously positive people at 6 o'clock in the morning, I swear to you. Good morning, welcome to Burger King. And I've met people that know him. His name is Phil. I don't know Phil, but I bet you if Phil has a little boy or a little girl, they want to grow up and work at Burger King. Because if your parent came home with that much zeal, man, he's alive. He loves what he does. You can tell. And if he can do that at Burger King, do any of us really have an excuse what we do for a living that we too can't have that much zeal and passion? Of course not. But it starts with what's one thing you're willing to put into practice and activate, and then who would be impacted by that thing. So 3 minutes, and then we'll go to break after that. 3 minutes conversation. What's one thing you're going to take away from this first 2 hours, and who would that impact if you became that next best version of you? 3 minutes, go. What's one thing from today you're willing to put into practice? What are you going to commit to putting into practice from this? And then when you put that into practice and it's visible, who would benefit from that? All right, speak back as a group in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What's your commitment? What are you going to commit to putting into practice?
I'm taking this. Like us as a team, we're going to do this.
Healthy culture, toxic culture?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good commit, because there's lots of layers that can come out of that. What else?
I like the pie chart. I mean, really actually understand.
Yeah. And putting it on paper, because that becomes your starting point. I don't care what I've had self-employed people at 90% that literally their entire waking hours was all built around work. Okay, you're at 90%. Let's get it to 86. Let's get it to 81, right? Just have that starting point, and then you recognize measurable progress. What else?
Articulating my ideas, ideal environment,
Yeah. Articulate it. And articulate it and talk to people about the people around you, right? Invite them in the process. What else? Same thing? Articulating what you want?
I like, there's a lot to explain about, but I really want to focus on how it impacts my home and changing that environment to be more positive and bringing more energy.
Mm-hmm. People you do it for.
I think similarly, like thinking of like not only is this impacting my workplace, the way that I show up for people, but it can impact my family and
Mm-hmm.
my friends and neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Huge.
Yeah,
All of it?
all of it.
All right. So as we head to break, again, one of the greatest gifts I always tell folks is it's the gift and the curse is awareness. Right? Again, 2 hours later when you walked in here, like how much more are you aware of? Holy crap, this stuff literally, it's really, when you get to the science of it, it's quantum entanglement. If you know that, it's basically everything is connected. Like we have energy fields, all the various things. We are entangled with everyone. When you're driving in society, when you're at a grocery store, we're all entangled by our energies and all the various things beyond what our five senses can see. And so when you understand those things, it's like some people can get lost in it. Oh, it's so big. Shrink your world down to what you can control and what you can influence. The beautiful thing about this, the excuse for none of us really is time. Time is the great equalizer. I don't care who you are, Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, they all have the same 168 hours that you and I get. Great equalizer. But time becomes the great separator, because how you choose to invest your time determines how valuable you and how valuable your life becomes. There's time, right? If you broke your week into under 15-minute increments, how many 15-minute increments could you find that you could definitely start to elevate the things? Literally, again, 5-minute increments could start to change the trajectory of your day, because we're in an energetic universe, nothing stands still, right? Here's your average vibrational set point. Are you choosing positive? Right? Here's a golden statement to remember. Where focus goes, energy flows. Where focus goes, energy flows. If you focus up here, you're going to change your trajectory up here. Focus is down here, right? Drive on the interstate. If you focus into the ditch, you will end up in the ditch. Whatever you focus on, whatever you hold in your mind, you're pouring energy into it. So nothing of significance happens without intention. So, got about 5 after. We'll take 15, come back at 10:20. Get up, stretch, eat plenty of these donuts, because otherwise Paul is going to have a very carb-heavy weekend. So you're going to do a lot of stepping.
All right, so I'm up next. Who are you? We're going to talk about identity. Tamian did an amazing job talking about culture, but I'm actually up here to talk about you. So the next 90 minutes, it's all about you. You get to be selfish for 90. You get to just focus on you, which I can tell you many of us don't have the chance to do, because we are too busy grinding, too busy doing our own thing, right? So we're going to talk about this a little bit. So this is how this is going to work. First, we're going to do some awareness. We're going to talk about what shapes your identity. Second, we're going to do some exploration. You're going to do an identity map. You have the handouts for it. We're going to do that. We're then going to move into disruption. What's your true identity versus what labels have been put on you? And what labels have you accepted that maybe you shouldn't have accepted? We're going to disrupt some of that. Then we're going to move into definition. What is your identity? Because only you can define it. Nobody else can define that for you. So we're going to work on that a little bit today. Then you're going to declare it. So Tamian had you doing a lot of writing down of things, right? You write it down, you make it plain. You're going to declare your identity statement. You're going to actually voice it, because I truly believe that words have power and words manifest. So if your declaration is going to help that manifestation, then I wouldn't be Paula Bell without a CTA. So we're going to do a call to action, right? That's going to be your direction. How do you keep this going? Because the last thing that I want is for you to walk out of this workshop with all of this information today and do nothing with it, right? That's not going to happen. So let's first jump into who are you? We are jumping into awareness. So oftentimes when I ask people who they are, I get job titles, I get roles, I get achievements, right? That's who I'm a mom. I work for Wells Fargo. I work for the Wilkie House. I take care of people. Those are the sort of things I get. It's deeper than that, though. Who are you with all of those titles stripped away? Who are you under pressure? Who are you becoming? And if you're an entrepreneur in the room, a lot of times people attach their identity to their business, and that is also a problem, because your whole identity can't be wrapped up in your business. What if you sell your business? Then who are you? Right? So we're going to go a little bit deeper. Who you are is not what you do, it's how you think. Tamian had us doing a whole lot of thinking today about culture and different things, right? Who you are is not what you do, it's how you think. So what shapes this identity that we're going to talk about? Your values. And what values means is what matters to you most, right? What are those things that matter to you, that are those non-negotiable, those things that are important to you? Second, experiences. What has shaped you? A lot of our lived experiences has shaped the person we are. So I am from Brooklyn. My family's from Barbados. I was raised Caribbean. The Caribbean people were under British rule. I have a lot of Great Britain etiquette and things that are part of our culture. There's work ethic is really huge. You're supposed to be really, really smart and be educated and go to school. You're not supposed to like any of the other islands because we're better. I had to say that because I have a Jamaican in the room. You picked up on that one. I knew how to get a rise out of you somehow. No, actually, we love all. We get along. We're community, like what Tamian has talked about. But there's been lived experiences that I've went through that others haven't went through, and there's experience you've went through that I haven't went through, and that does shape how we identify ourselves and the identity that we claim to have, right? Beliefs, what you think is true. Beliefs can be more than just spirituality. It could be more than just faith. Okay, but faith is a part of your belief system too. So what do you think is true? What do you believe in? What are those things? Motivation, what drives you? This is also another interesting question. When I ask this question, I get a deer in headlight look sometimes on motivation. What motivates you? Right? What are those things that drives you, excites you? You have a fire burning up in you. What is that motivation? Your talents and gifts, what you naturally do well. Some people don't like to talk about themselves. But it's really important to know what are your talents and gifts, because that's the uniqueness you bring. And as a manager, as I've managed teams, I want to know the talents and gifts I have on the team. Because here's the one thing, I don't know how to do everything, and I'm not good at doing everything. Somebody else can fill in that gap and make the whole team stronger, right? So what are those talents and gifts? But if you don't know what they are and you don't demonstrate them and you don't tell me what they are, I'm not going to know what they are. I might assume, but you should be well-grounded in your talents and gifts. And then your purpose. This is really important to me. Why are you here? This is the question most people can't answer. What is your purpose? Naya, what is your purpose?
I don't know if I can sum it up.
Why were you put on this earth? Who else is having a hard time? If I were to ask you this question, Tamian, what's your purpose?
Inspire the world to shift to a higher potential.
Bam. The reason I know he would know what his purpose is, right? And he said it with like no It just came right out, right? How long did it take you to figure out what your purpose was? 40-something years. Okay. How did you know when you nailed it that you knew that was your purpose? You felt it. Okay. All right. Courtney, if I was to ask you what's your purpose, do you know what it is? Bring peace and be a blessing to other people. How do you do that today? You show up for yourself? Okay. Okay. All right. I like it. Troy, what would you say?
Use my lived experience to change the lives of other men and women that have trapped in the system.
Oh. What system you talking about?
Legal system, jail, prison, addiction, criminality.
You've done all of that. Would y'all have known any of that? You don't look like that. See, a lot of us don't look like our circumstances. So a lot of times people make assumptions on who we are and label us based on that, right? But the simple fact that lived experience and why you made those decisions, there's a reason for that, and now you can help other people not do the same, right? I like it. It's really important that you understand who you are and what your purpose is. So let's explore this a little bit. We're going to do a mapping exercise. It is in your handout, I think. I didn't print the handouts, y'all. All right, I didn't print the handouts. It is not in your handout. All right, well, here we go. So, jot somewhere on your piece of paper. You have 6 different boxes. And this is probably my fault, actually, because I probably did not. This is a separate document. I probably didn't send it to him to print. So you have 6 different boxes: values, experiences, beliefs, motivations, talents, and purpose. And I'm going to give you a series of prompts for each of them. So for values, for example, what do I stand for no matter what? You're going to write that down, okay? And so I'm going to give you all the prompts right here. Those are all of your prompts. And hopefully you all can see them. That's why I was testing. I have to play a video later. That's why I was testing the lights, so I could turn it down. I want you to sit down for a minute, and I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do this. I want you to think about these questions, and I want you, of course you don't have the box, but underneath each of the headings, put the answer to your question. Okay. Chloe, what do you stand for no matter what?
I feel like one way to explain it is like picking up the cross, dying to self, and serving others.
Picking up the cross, dying to self, serving others. I like it. Troy, what moment shaped who you are today? Okay. All right. Courtney Fromm, what do you believe about yourself and the world?
What do I believe about?
Courtney Fromm, not you, child. Sit down. You just got in here. You ain't even done the exercise yet. I wouldn't even do you like that. I got 2 Courtneys in here. Yes. So what do you believe about yourself and the world?
That there are both light and darkness, but that the light triumphs.
I like that. Okay. Naya, what energizes or drives you? What energizes or drives you? Your motivation.
Music, laughter, treating people well, culture, and play.
I love it. I love it. Kiana, what comes naturally to you? And you are good at that. You are good at that. Created a whole doggone book. Okay. Jackie, Who do you feel called to impact or serve?
Still working on that.
Okay.
I mean, I've been doing, I feel like, so long.
Okay.
So I want to.
You want to find something?
I mean, I know, like, as a Christian, I know a lot of things that I feel called to impact.
Yep.
But, like, in my life, like, what do I want to do?
With that?
Yes. I mean, with that, with, just even have a goal.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. What section was easiest to y'all? Out of the 6 boxes, which one was the easiest? Just like, yeah, that's an easy question. Purpose? What motivates you? Motivation, experiences? Huh? Talents. You said talents? I didn't hear you. I really didn't hear you. Talents? Okay. What section was the hardest? Purpose? Really? Okay.
I'd say that one was kind of hard for me too, because I feel like so a lot of things I feel like I've grown on that I have now, I've had to work out to be good at. So, that one was natural.
Okay. Okay. What surprised you? Did you have any aha moments? Now that you actually had to sit down and think about it. Or do you feel you have some gaps? You're still trying to figure stuff out.
I think beliefs was hardest for me because I had to admit to myself that I was in a little bit of misalignment.
Okay. Okay. Misalignment with your belief system. Okay. Okay. But that's real talk right there, though. So what you gonna do with that?
Sit down with myself and have that little heart to heart.
Some self-reflection and some okay. All right. Nothing wrong with that. Anything else surprised you? Oh. Took more time you were anticipating time. Why do you feel talents is so hard?
Like, what am I looking at myself that is very misaligned with what is shown outside?
Okay. Okay. Do people have a hard time? Did anybody have a hard time in here when you looked at talents actually acknowledging and giving yourself some kudos and bragging on what you're good at? Why do you think that is?
I think part of it is we're kind of raised to not brag about ourselves. Don't be bragging. And
No, you're right. It kind of goes back to some of the stuff that Tamian has said is how society has conditioned us, right? And how we've grown up. But if you don't project or believe in what you do, nobody else is, because it starts with you first, just like Courtney said, right? It starts with you first. And so I try and get people out of the space of, yeah, you can be confident and give yourself kudos without being arrogant and a jerk about it. Right? If you're really good at something, say, this is what I'm good at. I know, or it just comes natural to me, right? And then there are other things that you've learned that you've gotten better at, but there's nothing wrong with telling people what you're good at. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, we condition that way, because if we don't tell you what we're good at, you're not going to buy nothing from us, right? We're selling something to you to solve a problem you have. So if we can't tell you how we can do that, you're not going to come to us. Right, so there has to be some level of sale there. So I want to talk a little bit about, you all talked about just took you longer. Some took you longer to write it down, and you might be out of alignment, misaligned, and all these other things. I want to go into disruption a little bit because it goes back to, again, tying into what Tamian talked about earlier, which is all about societal norms. So I'm going to play this video, and I want you to watch it, and then we're going to do some work. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Crap. It might help if I turn on the volume. My bad. Just a little technicality. Why is it when you just touch this thing got to auto refocus? I mean, what is happening? I'm not understanding. What are your thoughts? Y'all crying? Mhm. Mhm. How many of you all, when you watch this video, you're like, that I resonate with that? Or at some point in your life, you've really resonated with that? And did you see how just that one word shifted the whole vibe of how he carried himself in one person? Yep. And he didn't even say anything, just gave him a piece of paper, right? Yep. And then he did the same to someone else, right? That dynamic. So I want you to think about what labels have been placed on you. Now, this is actually on the handout. Write down all the labels you can think in your handout that has been placed on you, that you're carrying right now, good or bad. What are those labels? I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to think of as many labels as you can. Any type of label. Ones that you put on yourself, ones that you think people have on you, ones that you've been carrying. What are those labels? I'm glad I got height. Good God.
I dropped it some.
Oh, don't play. Don't play with me. All right, hit me. What are some of these labels? You said mean? Lazy? The hell? Strong? What the? Oh, Lord. No, keep going. No, keep going. Funny? What else? Mm-hmm. What else? Keep it coming. Hold on. I'm coming back to you. What did you say? Creative. Did you say scary? What else? What else? Okay. What else? Quiet? Troy, have you given me one yet?
No.
Mentor?
Honestly, criminal.
Criminal? Reliable? I heard another one. Annoying? Naya, have you given me one? Give it. Fast in what context? Okay, gotcha. Okay, what else? Oh. Liar. Liar and capable. Anything else? Now, y'all know the majority of these labels are negative, right? And that's the first thing that came out, were the negatives. So let me ask you this question. For all these different labels that came out, how many of these do y'all believe about yourself? Do you believe you're a bitch? Do you believe you're lazy? Do you believe you're a drug addict? Do you believe you're an alcoholic? Do you believe you're direct? How many of these do you actually believe that you actually carry with you every single day? If on your list you carry 90% of these labels or more, raise your hand. She's going to statistically figure this out. I just love Courtney. While Courtney's doing her stats, 80% or more you carry. Raise your hand if you carry 80% of these or more. 70%. 60? 50? Below 50. Raise your hand if you're below 50, that you don't carry them. Raise your hand if you don't know. Raise your hand, it depends on the day. It depends on the day. Right, okay. So, the reason I bring this up is sometimes we will take these labels and we will make these labels our identity. And we need to start breaking that. Labels does not equal identity. Okay, we've got to start breaking that. Title changes, identity remains. Misalignment happens when you live by expectations versus truth. That's why I asked you all, which of these do you all actually believe? Because identity should be chosen, not assigned. Nobody should be assigning your identity. All right? Maybe I am direct, but do you know my lived experience on why I might be direct? Maybe I'm a byproduct of domestic violence, and I found my voice now where I didn't have a voice before, and now I'm direct because for me, that's life or death. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be aggressive. I'm not trying to be assertive. I'm just trying to live. And maybe that's why I'm direct. And maybe if you took a moment, instead of just labeling me and actually having a conversation with me to understand if my directness, the intent of it, maybe we might go a little bit further. I'm not going to allow you to choose my identity. I'm not going to allow you to choose my identity. I'm going to choose my own identity. I'm not going to allow you to put labels on me that I'm going to carry that I know are not true just because that's how you feel about me. Now, there is a difference between labels and constructive feedback. There's a difference, okay? When you having tendencies and you just ticking everybody off every day, you might be labeled as a bitch because you're making everybody angry every day. Now, is that the right term to use? No, we shouldn't be calling people female dogs. But that's where we are. That's how we do. Have a conversation first on understanding why. But as you can see, many of the labels that you all easily put down first are negative. Some of them shock me, honestly. I don't see you as lazy. I just don't see it. I don't see you as mean. I just see you, you're a boss. I mean, you are about your business. And it's interesting because Courtney Perry and I do a lot of events together. And we literally have people who have said that they are scared of us. They don't know us. But it's because when we're doing these events, we about business. When I'm doing an event, I'm all in, I'm locked in, right? I'm about making sure the event's flowing and whatnot. I don't have time for pleasantries and niceties. I got work to do, right? There's a time for that. But if somebody's counting on me to help deliver something, I'm locked in at that point in time. You might take that as me being direct or mean, where I take that as me being responsible and trying to get the job done, right? And if you get to know me, you'll probably find I'm probably one of the nicest people you ever meet. But if you don't get to know me, it just isn't meant for you to know me, right? That's your loss, not mine. So it's really important that we don't allow these labels to stay on us because that is going to hinder you from your purpose. That can hinder you from creating that culture that you all just worked on with Tamian earlier today too, if you don't know what those things are. So some of you have been living out identities that were given to you, not chosen by you. And I need you to not walk out the room doing that still today. Okay. I need you to choose how you are identified, how you show up. So labels, what you're called. Key truths, they're temporary. They're often assigned, they're limiting, or they're incomplete. A lot of misinformation with labels. A lot of people making a lot of assumptions out here about people. Who you are, though, is constructed and defined. You started a little bit of that with your identity mapping. You all know a little bit more about your talents, about your purpose, about your values, about your beliefs, right? It's consistent across environments. So this is something that's really, really important. Really, really important. What I can't stand is when I see someone who acts one way in one environment and acts totally different in another. You have an identity crisis. That's what I call it. You should be consistent in any environment you're in, right? I shouldn't see Troy this way, and then I go outside and I see Troy snapping on people and slapping people and laying hands, right? That's what happened, Troy. I thought we were past this, right? So you want to make sure that there's consistency, but there's also alignment with your values and purpose. And that's why it's really important for you all to know what your values and purpose is, because there are a lot of people walking around aimlessly day after day, and they do not know why they are here. How do I know? Because they come to me for coaching. That's how I know. And when I ask them who they are, they can't answer the question. And when I ask them what's that burning fire inside that you keep running away from, they can't tell me. Or they reluctantly tell me because they actually don't want to do what their purpose is. They're more scared of being successful than failing, which is so interesting to me, right? But it's so important that you know what your purpose is. I'm going to tell you, when you figure out what your purpose is, when I tell y'all your stress level going to go down, because you ain't going to put up with some of this BS that you've been putting up with, because you don't have time, because you're flowing in your purpose. You're not going to let those things suck your energy. You're flowing, right? And that's where you need to be. And you're also going to see the people you around are going to change. Because some people can't rock with you when you're really flowing in your purpose. They just can't. They're going to drain you. And if they're draining you, that's a clear sign that you probably need to get rid of them. Because they shouldn't be draining you. All right. So again, key differences. I'm not going to read all of them. The one I do want to point out right here, though, is surface level versus deep rooted. A lot of people just look at you on the surface to attach these labels, but they don't go underneath that surface and really figure out who you are as a person. So don't allow them to attach things to you that don't serve you. Don't allow people to put stuff on you that doesn't serve you. And so why do I keep bringing this home? It's because some of y'all know my story. Some of y'all do not. But my story is when I was in college, I tried to commit suicide 3 times. And the reason being is because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my purpose. Now, I had a lot of people telling me what I should do, but I didn't know who I was. And I didn't deal with the childhood traumas that I should have dealt with either. So I had a lot of stuff going on there that was, some of it was family. A lot of it was family, unfortunately. And so there were things that were going on that I just didn't handle. I just didn't take care of. I didn't know who I was internally at all. So I didn't know what my value was. So why am I here, right? Went through that whole process, therapy, the whole 9, all that good stuff. Came back, and now I'm sick and tired of watching people take their purpose to the grave, because what's ticking me off is our purposes might be attached somehow. And because you don't want to act right, you messing up what I'm supposed to be doing, right? There's a reason Tamian and I met over a decade ago. I'll never forget the day. Well, the day we met wasn't a good day because I just fired somebody. So Tamian came up to me at the wrong time to try and say hello. I literally just walked out the office from terminating someone that I didn't want to terminate. But I supported his organization. My team supported his team. And there was one time I was in Sioux Falls, and Tamian said to me, because Tamian knew I was a speaker, I was doing trainings at Wells, I was doing all this other stuff. He said, we are going to align in business at some point in time, and we're going to go international. All right, cool, I'm down. Cool. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I was like, I'm cool with that. Let's do it. So Tamian decides to take the leap, and he leaves Wells Fargo. Leaves Wells Fargo, starts his own business, doing great things, doing his thing, right? And look now, 10 years later, Tamian and I are collaborating, not only on this, on another something he'll tell you about later, but also we're talking about taking an international trip. That's how some stuff happened, right? His purpose is around culture and getting people to understand the impact of culture. Mine is around purpose and identity and clarity. They both merge. They both come together, right? And we can actually do things together and collaborate. And we can also demonstrate that popular belief is, unbeknownst to popular belief, Black people actually can't collaborate and unify. Because there's a stereotype around that we cannot. But we really can. Courtney Perry is another person that I do a lot of collabing with. Courtney used to be my client. Actually, Courtney was a mentee of mine before she was ever my client. I don't even remember how we met. It's been so long. But I remember. Is that how we met? Okay, I'm glad you know, because girl, you know. Yeah, so that was a hot minute. And we've been rocking hard since. And now she's coming under my company as a contract presenter, right? We've done stuff together that I know. You never know how your purposes may align. But the only reason I was able to align with Tamian and able to align with Courtney is because I know what I'm doing. And they know what they're doing. And that's what I need other people to realize, because I'm probably missing out and you're probably missing out on some coins because people ain't acting right and it's pissing me off. I need people to stop taking their purpose to the grave, because you never know how we're going to align and how the impact that we're going to have, right? So labels will change, titles will shift, roles will evolve. But if you don't define who you are, you'll spend your life trying to live up to what you've been called. And I don't know if what you've been called is really what you want to live up to. I'm just going to keep it 100% real, because I'm sorry, I wouldn't want somebody just calling me a bitch every day. I'm sorry, I don't want to live up to that. I don't want to live up to somebody calling me a criminal every day. I don't want to live up to somebody saying I'm mean every day. I don't want to live up to somebody saying I'm lazy. I don't want to be a pushover. I don't want none of them things. Right? So you define it. And when they call you them things, you correct them. Don't allow them to attach it to you. I'm letting y'all get that quote because I see y'all writing feverishly. That's why I'm not moving. That's why I'm not moving. I can also send y'all the deck, honestly. I have all y'all emails. I can just send you the deck. Now, I don't know if Tamian going to share his stuff, but I can share my stuff. I can't speak on behalf of Tamian. You good? All right, so we can get y'all the information. All right, so now we've disrupted a little bit, right? Y'all have done some disruption. Now you understand that, these labels, and that's only a piece of disruption. I just talked about labels. I haven't talked about everything else that can happen. What people speak over you, what people say to you, what you internally believe, what your limiting beliefs are. Do y'all know what limiting beliefs are? Those things you tell yourself to not be successful. That's how I look at it. Those things you tell yourself to limit, imposter syndrome, those things. Write down one thing that you tell yourself as a limiting belief. Just one. Just write down one. What is one thing that you tell yourself that is a limiting belief? It could be something as, I am not good enough for that job. Something like that. I want you to go deeper than that, but that's an example. You can write it down anywhere on the paper. You can write it down under the labels. I'm making this up, so I'm off script, so it's not in the handout. I'm going to tell you all that right now. It's not in the handout. And as you think about that limiting belief, I do want you to answer the question on the handout, which is on the first page, who am I if I remove the labels? So you have two questions. One, what is a limiting belief you tell yourself? Two, who are you if you remove those labels that you just told me were put on you? Courtney Perry, what's your limiting belief? What's your limiting belief? Give me more. What part of imposter syndrome? I know you. Nobody else in the room knows you, girl.
So I do a lot.
You do and do.
So when somebody comes and tells me, like, you're doing a great job, or I see you doing that, it's like, oh, for real?
So you don't give yourself enough credit, recognition. Okay. How about you, Jackie?
That I am not good enough with
You are not good enough without a person?
I'm not good
Oh, you're not good enough at your job to get a promotion? Okay. All right. How about you, Troy? I was about to say something really snarky about Wells, and I just had to catch myself real quick.
That I'm not going to be able to convince all the people I need to convince
To do what?
to take a shot on the people that we serve.
Okay. So your level of influence. Okay. You don't feel that you have that. What'd you, Chloe? Not fully. Okay.
I don't have the personality to make it.
You don't have the personality to make impact. Okay. Well, how about you, Naya?
Things will always be this way.
Things will always be this way. Okay. Courtney? Your standards are too high to find a partner. Okay. Kiana?
I don't speak my mind like I should, and I'm not direct with people. I'd rather just let you walk
conflict avoidant, people pleaser, those sort of things, and you wish you weren't?
I don't know how to explain it. Like, if I see something I don't like, I'm like, don't do that, or I'm not going to tell you, like, why I don't like it or something.
Okay,
I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I should speak my mind more, even if it's negative.
okay,
I just don't know how to.
okay, okay. So y'all know these are all lies, right? That you're telling yourself, right? So how do you get past that? One thing I'm going to tell you all is these things that you've just said that are limiting beliefs, turn them into something positive. I do have a personality to make the change. The difference is that the people that you are supposed to be impacting will be the people that you need to impact. You may not be able to impact everybody with your personality. So don't. But I know I have the right personality for the right person to help them make that change, right? This isn't always how it's going to be because I'm not going to let it be that way because I know what my purpose is and I'm going to do what I need to do in order to make sure I get to where I want to get to. I'm not going to use that as a crutch anymore. That's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do, right? I do have 100% influence. Either people are going to agree or they're not. For those who don't get on, that's fine, but that's not going to stop me from making the impact that I know I'm supposed to make, whether they're behind me or not. Because sometimes it's going to take proof of concept before people will actually jump on board. I am good enough for this promotion, and if it's not at Wells, it will be somewhere else because I know what I bring as value to the team. I know what I can do, and that is not going to change in any environment I am because I am confident in who I am. It's recorded. Yeah. This one here, I will do a better job at recognizing and awarding myself for all of my successes. When somebody gives me a compliment, instead of me second guessing it, I am going to accept it and I'm going to use that as motivation to keep going. Don't worry, I got you because I'm going to hold you accountable to that mess. Because you're getting on my nerves. Because we attached. So I can't have you, we got to keep each other together. What was yours again? Finding the right partner. Your expectations are not high. Your lived experiences has set standards that you know are non-negotiable. And if you do not meet those non-negotiable standards, then it's just not meant for us to be together because that's where I am in life right now. That's the season I'm in right now. I will speak my mind, whether people want to receive it or not, because I have a voice and my voice has power and I'm just as important as anybody else who speaks their mind. That's what you all need to be saying to yourselves as you are going through limiting beliefs. Because at the end of the day, we all have them. And if you all don't think I have them, I do. I've called Courtney. Tamian will just cuss me out. So Tamian isn't that friend that you go to, like if you're emotionally wrecked, because Tamian doesn't care. Tamian is going to say, I need you to lock in and get it together and use some other colorful words to get you to where you need to be. I know when and when not to call Tamian. That's it. That's it. He is the one, when we used to do our mastermind, that everybody was scared of coming with goals, because if you didn't reach them, Tamian didn't want to hear your excuses. You need somebody like that though, right? So I know when to go to him and when to have those sort of conversations. I also know when to go to Courtney. Courtney and I can have a little bit more of an emotional thing, right? Where I'm like, hey, Courtney, I'm about to throw in this doggone towel. People getting on my nerves. People asking me to do this, that, and the next. I asked her just this week. I'll give you an example. I asked her just this week. I made this video at the Wilkie house. Y'all, I was pissed. I was pissed. So here I am at this Black Women for Healthy Living conference last year. They asked me to do intentional movement. I said, I don't do intentional movement. I do high impact cardio. If you come into my class, you're going to burn some. There's a Paula, we got people who can't do all of that. But you're highly recommended as somebody to do something. So they wanted me to do chair. I never done chair in my life, right? I don't even work out in a chair. The only time I work out in a chair is if I'm injured, right? So I'm like, how the heck am I going to do this? So I did this chair thing. I put it together. I have a friend who does chair. I reached out to her. Got a little routine together, got some music. These people ate that doggone thing up. I was like, oh, wow, there could be something here. Multiple people came up to me, Miss Paula, if you do a chair program, I'm there. I can't do the high cardio stuff, but if you do chair, I'm there. All right, then let me see what I can work out for y'all. Let me see, right? So I go to my girl, Weslyn, at the Wilkie House, and I'm like, Weslyn, hey, with the John R. Grubb closing down, I want to do this chair thing, but I want to keep it in our community because that's where I started. That was who gave me the opportunity to even do group fitness. I want to keep it in the community. Weslyn's like all on board, right? So Tuesday nights, we're doing chair, and then we do step class after that. And so I put it out there. We doing chair and we doing step. Have had 2 people. I started this foolishness last quarter. No, shoot, it's April, right? Okay, 2 quarters ago. I started it in the 4th quarter of last year. I've had 1 consistent person, and the other one I'm not even upset with because she has to balance it between church. So I already knew that with her, right? So I'm not even upset with that. So Tuesday now, I'm back. I'm looking at empty chairs. So I created this video, and I said, before I posted it on social, I said, Courtney, am I wrong to post this on social media? Because I'm pissed off. Because, again, y'all wasting my time. The community asked for it. I delivered it. You're not showing up for it. And then the minute I cancel it, oh, why did you? I won't hear it. Because I give y'all 2 quarters, 6 months to show up. And I'm at the point where I'm like, May, I might be canceling chair. Y'all go find that somewhere else. And then people got the audacity to tell me I want Tai Chi. You better Tai Chi or you know what somewhere else. I can't even get you to come do chair. Why am I going to do Tai Chi? Right? So Courtney is my person, and she told me to post it, so I did. So I did. She said post it, because sometimes you got to call people out. You all said you wanted this. I delivered. You didn't come through, right? That's a problem. That's a problem. But I'm going to do some disruption, because I can't keep doing all this extra, and the community isn't coming up, and y'all already telling me I'm doing too much. But really, I'm not, because to Tamia's point, I don't feel like I'm working every day. I love what I do every day. I love going and spending time with these middle schoolers and high schoolers, even though they get on my nerves. But I still love spending time with them because they're different. These group of kids, these breed is different. Right? I get it. They're different. But I love spending time with them. I like going out and supporting events and being there for other people. So for me, I'm not doing a lot. I'm in alignment with my purpose. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just trying to help y'all out. And you won't. And so I might have to disrupt. So instead of letting those things limit you, walk into your truth, right? That's what I want you all to do. Walk into your truth and have somebody hold you accountable to do it. Now you're part of me and Tamian's network. You want to know a motivator. Tamian's a motivator. If you really want to be motivated to do something, if you're ready for that next level of elevation, if you're not ready, don't go to Tamian yet. Come to me. But if you're ready for that next level of motivation, Tamian's going to get you there. I'm not saying I can't. I'm just saying you got to be ready for the different levels of interaction that you're going to have with people, right? But you now have us as part of your network. Most of y'all already know me anyway. So there are building blocks of an identity statement because you're going to create one. You all are going to define your own identity today. You're going to define your own mission. You're going to define your own vision. You're not going to let anybody else define it for you. You're going to define it yourself. And if anybody, again, ever tries to define it for you, you can tell them where to go. And if they got a problem with that, you can tell them to come to Paula Bell, and I'll handle the rest of it for you. Okay? I ain't playing with these people. People getting on my nerves. Okay, so core identity. Purpose-driven, resilient, problem-solver, growth-minded. Those are examples. So the first building block is who you are, right? That is your core identity. You then move into your values, what you stand for. So imagine this. Some of this you all already did in your identity map, so you can pull some of this stuff in. So some values could be integrity, impact, beliefs. Those, I'm just giving you some examples, not an exhaustive list. What moves you, your motivations, your drivers, creating change, helping others grow, making a difference. What is that motivation? You want to put that motivation and driver in your identity statement. In addition to what are the strengths and gifts, what are those talents that you bring, whether you want to admit them or not. Sometimes you might even have friends tell you what your talents are, right? But what are those talents and things that you bring? And then commitment with purpose, what you do with it. So how do you take all of these 4 things that you just did with a commitment and purpose and do it? So you might find out that after You get to these 4, you find that you create meaningful impact, or you might find that you build strong relationships. You might be that connector, or you find that you might be leading with intention. It could be any of those things. So those are your 5 key building blocks. Now, if everybody has a phone, take a picture of this, because the work you're about to do with your identity statement, this can help with that work, because you're not going to be able to see this page. So that's why I'm telling you to take a picture of it. Everybody get their picture? Cool. So here we go. This is what I want you to write. It should be on the second page, I believe. Back of the first page? Back of the third page? I don't know what pages I'm on, y'all. Yeah, that's all good. So it should say definition, identity statement. That should be the top. So I am blank, who values X, driven by Y, and committed to Z. Here is an example of an identity statement. That is just a sample. Now, this is what I don't want you to do. Don't take that sample and use the same words, y'all. Don't take the whole thing and just take it. Don't do that. I just gave you a sample because some people just need a little starter. But go ahead and write your identity statement. What is your statement? And I'm going to give you about 3. Huh? You didn't take the picture?
No, because I put my phone away because it was a distraction to me and I was irritated.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's right there? Did I put it in there? Oh, okay.
No, but I'm going to.
This one here. This one here. I'm telling you. Is this what you need?
Yes.
Okay. You want to use ChatGPT? Lord Jesus, you going to have AI write your identity statement? Jesus. Chat, tell me, who am I? Well, Courtney, you are. You are the CEO of Lady Legs. All right, y'all got your identity statement? At least a draft. A draft. Because let me tell you something about this. Let me tell you something. I know y'all going to look up like, she mad, right? Is she out of her mind? So today you're starting the journey. You're not going to finish it today. There's no way in 90 minutes I can make you all get that deep in identifying to finalization an identity statement, a mission, and a vision. Okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to leave here, you're going to start thinking about some things. And you're probably going to change it and refine it and redo it. But do you have something, just a start of something that you can continue with? Okay. And some of y'all look distressed. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. I know it is a draft. I know it is not complete. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for progress. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So with that being said, what you're going to do right now is you're going to pair up with somebody, or you're going to have a trio, and you are going to share with them what you've written down as your identity statement. Wherever it is, okay? This should not take long. It's not a whole conversation, right? It's more of you share. So each of you probably have a minute, because you probably can tell your identity statement in about 15 seconds. I mean, it's just a statement, right? It's not that long. And then from there, the other person is going to tell you how that landed for them. Now, there's no negativity in this at all. Everything is all about positivity. So it's not like, yeah, that sounds stupid. We're not doing that, right? It's their identity. So you can't write their narrative. But you can give them some pointers and say, you know what, that statement was hot. But you know what would make that even better is if you said X, Y, Z. How do you feel about that? Right? You can do that. So go ahead and share. I'm going to give you all about, because we got a trio here, I'm going to give you all about 4 minutes for that. All right. You know what I love seeing that was very different than what I had not seen at the very beginning? I saw high fives, I saw smiles, I saw head nods, I saw encouragement, I saw all those things, right? It also could be because it's getting close to lunch, but I don't know. But it could be all of them things, but I don't know. Maybe y'all getting happy. I mean, now the Friday's progressing. I only got, a few more hours after work or what have you. But there's something to be said when you can share with other people, even people that you don't know. Sometimes it's cool to share with people that you don't know. certain things because there's no bias coming into it, right? They're really just listening to what you're saying and listening to you and encouraging you. So you've now started to define your identity. You've now started to define who you are. Some of you might have already known it. Some of you might be like, yeah, I already knew this and I'm good. But to put it down on paper and to really think about it is really key. However, identity without direction creates awareness but not movement. So you can have all the identity in the world, but if you don't do nothing with it, that's all you got is the identity, right? I would have to say, I would think that the majority of the people in this room want to do something, want to make an impact, want to move, right? So that's where your mission and your vision come up. So now that I know what my identity is, how does that tie to how I show up daily? How does that tie to where am I going in the future? How does that tie to how I come, my presence in front of people, my behaviors, my standard? How does that show up on impact, on destination, on where I want to go in the future, right? Those really important of you to understand what your personal mission and vision is. A lot of people don't have a personal mission or vision statement. A lot of people know their company's mission statement and vision statement, but they don't know the mission and vision statement for their life. And at the end of the day, them companies, when they're ready to get rid of you, they're going to get rid of you. Then what do? And I'm going to tell you right now, trying to find a job right now in this job market is ridiculous. If you do not know your identity and who you are and what you bring to the table, you are going to get passed up. Take it from someone who just went through it for 7 months. As credentialed as I am, as skilled as I am, as many industries that I've been a part of, as well known as my name is in some areas, do you know how many doors I had closed in my face when I was interviewing? I didn't even get to the doggone interview. And I knew I was qualified for the job. I was like, now y'all know I hit everything on that bullet list. I didn't even get a conversation. But I know who I am. And during that time, I had to lean in real hard because my mental started to waver a little bit there. I was like, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe because I left corporate in 22, maybe I messed up and maybe nobody wants me ever again. I started having them thoughts. And then I quickly put them away because I know my mission and my vision, right? And I want you all to get that too. Your mission is your daily alignment. It identifies how you show up in spaces. It's your standard of behavior. It's what people experience from you consistently, daily. That is your mission. Without a mission, you are inconsistent. Mission gives you discipline. Damian talked about that. There needs to be consistency. There needs to be commitment in everything you do. Your mission is not what you say. It's what people experience when they interact with you. I can talk a good game all day long, but if what you experience from me doesn't align with what I'm talking about, you're going to look at me cross-eyed, and you should. You should, because my actions and my words should align. That's another pet peeve of mine, when your actions and your words don't align. I can't work for organizations where their mission and their vision is one thing, but internally they're jacked up. It doesn't work for me because I feel like I'm a fraud. I don't feel I'm being truthful, right? Your vision is your future impact. It's the bigger picture. It's who you're becoming. It's the legacy you want to leave. It's the impact you want to have, even when you're not here. Without a vision, you can feel stuck or directionless. That's why a lot of people don't have clarity, because they don't know where they're going. Just like Tamian had said earlier with your GPS, in order to use a GPS, you need to have a starting point and an end point. The same with your life. Where are you going? Because that's what's going to give you the motivation to keep going when life gives you those curveballs. Your vision is not where you are, it's where you're growing into. You are going, but you're also growing into it. Because those lived experiences that you have, those interactions that you have, is going to help you to continue to grow. The failures that you have is going to help you continue to grow. But you need to know what your mission and vision is so you know where you are going in life. What is that direction? So let's take a moment and we're going to do this. We are going to define your mission and your vision. Now, this is what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to get over complicated and theoretical just yet. I put some questions up here as prompts. and this should be in your handout. What is your mission and what is your vision? Your mission is to show up as someone who will do X, Y, and Z, or maybe just X. It doesn't have to be 3 things. It's just an example. My mission is to do X so that Y can happen. Remember, this is your impact. This is how you want to show up. So take a moment and write it down in your template. Please tell me it's in the template. Okay, good. I forgot to give you a whole handout, Tamian. That was on me. Because I forgot I created it in something different than the document I sent you. How many of y'all are finding this really, really hard to do? Pretty, not really, really, but pretty hard? Uh-huh. Isn't it amazing how much time we spend living out other people's mission and vision and not living out our own? 60 hours. I remember when Tamian talked about 60. There was points where we were working 60 to 80 hours at Wells. That was my life, to where my kids would say to me, are you going to be on your laptop when you come home tonight? That's when you know you're just doing too much. But we don't spend enough time on just ourselves. We should respect ourselves more than these corporations. These corporations, again, when they're ready to let go of you, they're going to let go of you. That's a very good question. So every year, at the end of the year, I try to now. I was doing it consistently, but last year was just a weird year for me. I try to take the last 2 weeks of the year off, and that's when I do all my self-reflection and introspection. I make sure, I don't really change my mission or vision. That's pretty stable. It's, am I in alignment with it, is what I'm more so looking at, more than anything else. When I went through all the stuff that I went through, and I really did all the work to really define who I was, I am very confident in who I am. So I don't really have to change my mission or my vision. What might change are the things that I do to live out my mission and vision. Outside of that, the actual statements stay pretty consistent. But I do self-reflection every year. Actually, to be quite honest, I probably do it quarterly. I'm looking back at myself and I'm like, yeah, that didn't work. Or that did work. Y'all got a draft at least? You got something of your mission and vision? What did I do? Oh, should they say vision statement? Yeah, you're right. All right. So when your identity, your mission, and your vision align, you stop second guessing yourself. Those limiting beliefs become less and less, and you start moving with intention. And what that means is you move with intention in every aspect of your life, right? The people who you engage with, who you hang around with. So funny enough, funny story. I have a friend who is getting more acclimated and more visible in Des Moines doing things. And so there are individuals who would come up to me requesting access to said friend, right? And so first of all, don't ever do that to me, because I'm not going to give you access to anybody. You need to go to the source. I'm nobody's pimp. So first of all, you don't need to come to me for anything. And I'm not going to do that anyway. But what was very interesting is I had made a comment that, because some of the individuals, this individual didn't know how where our relationships were going to go. And I said, I don't need any more female friends. I point blank just said, I really don't. I don't need, I just don't. I have the circle that I have. And if I'm not feeling feeling that energy or feeling you just not coming in my circle. And my circle is real small. My real core circle is real small. And then I have people outside of that who I rock with really hard too. But I don't need a whole bunch of people. That's too much noise, too much distraction, just too much going on. And what value do they add? What benefit do they add to me at this particular point in time, right? I'm getting older. I just don't need all of that. I will provide advice and do all of that good stuff, but I don't need to see you every day. I don't need to have dinner with you. I don't need to kick it with you. I don't need to go out, go to movies with you. I don't enjoy any of that. Because there's just some people that, I don't know, you just don't have that vibe. So you're gonna start moving with more intention. You're gonna know where you're gonna want to put your time and your energy and who you're gonna want to be around you, right? In addition to that, clarity is not about having all the answers, it's about knowing who you are, how you show up, and where you're going, right? I have clarity, but there are sometimes I don't. There are some opportunities that come my way that I wasn't expecting. It's like, doggone, where'd that come from, right? Need to get clarity. However, even though I don't have all the answers, I know how I'm going to show up. I know who I am, and I know where I'm going. And I also know who I can have as trusted advisors to help bring that clarity if needed, right? So that's why this is so important. So at this point now, you should know who you are to an extent beyond your roles. You should know what your identity is that you have defined to an extent. And you should know where you are out of alignment. That was coming up early, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't find your identity, you define it. And every decision you make either reinforces it or contradicts it. You want to have more reinforcement than contradiction. Tell you that right now. And you define who you are. You don't let anybody else do that for you. There's people out here writing all sorts of narratives. Got AI writing stuff. Heck, got AI actually making versions of them, like they clones and stuff. I'm not understanding. I mean, I love AI now. I've named my AI and all. I talk to my AI like we actually are buddies. But at the end of the day, AI just gives me ideas, right? They don't define who I am. So your call to action is who's going to hold you accountable to live your true identity. You've done all of this work today. You've done culture work with Tamian. You've done work with me. And Tamian's going to come back up here and talk about something else that we got going on here in June. You've done work with me. But who's going to hold you accountable when you leave this room? To number one, finish your identity statement. Finish your mission statement. Finish your vision statements if you haven't. And be that person who can be that accountability partner to make sure you stay on task. Because this is what's going to happen. You're going to leave out of here today. It's Friday. It's good. We don't have the severe weather yet. You might get a little bit of nice time outside. Might get a little drinky drink tonight. Feeling all good and stuff. Get through the weekend. Monday, come back. You back to the same old BS, right? Oh yeah, that was great on Friday, and then you go right back into the same rut. I don't want y'all to do that. What commitment are you going to make today so you don't do that? If that means you set up a monthly coffee with somebody in this room, whether virtually or in person, to say, look, I need you to hold me accountable. You can set one up with me. I'll be open to it. Again, I can't speak on behalf of Tamian, but I'll be open to it if you wanted to reach out to me. Tamian, I'll be knowing what state he be in. So half the time, I'll be like, are you actually in South Dakota or where are you right now? Because every time, Tamian be living his best life. So I don't know where he be at. He be all over the place. But find someone that you can trust, whether it's me or somebody else, that will hold you accountable for the rest of this year, because we need to make this a habit. You can't leave out of here with all this work that we put in and not do something with it. Make sense? Any questions for me before I turn this back over to Tamian? I probably should have asked. I did ask on the survey, what do you all want to get out of this? Courtney said everything. And the reason I remember that is because I laughed when I saw the comment. She said, I just want everything. I don't know what I want. I just want everything you have to offer, right? That's what she said, right? Did you all get what you wanted out of the session today? Was it worth your time taking off 4 hours? Do it and come into this? All right. All right, cool. Tamian, it's all you.
Good so far. That was actually really good.
Not actually really good. He said that was actually really good.